Chapter 749. The river flows south to Hong Kong, let's go and have a look. Pearl of the Orient, my love, is your style still romantic? Singing the same song, the two hosts first introduced Qin Feier and Lu Qin from the mainland, and the first to sing was Qin Gangxing, who was the last to appear on the stage. The most famous superstar of Hong Kong held the microphone. His resolute eyes seemed to look across the Century Square, overlooking the brightly lit Hong Kong, recalling the vicissitudes of hundreds of years it had experienced. He sang the prelude of the song Pearl of the Orient, with a deep voice that countless fans were familiar with. The Century Square, which accommodated more than 100,000 spectators, was silent. Everyone's eyes were focused on the center stage, focusing on the four superstars from the mainland and Hong Kong. They were all attentive, listening attentively. The crescent moon in the harbor, the deep night, the lights shining, Pearl of the Orient, sleepless all night, guarding the promise of the vicissitudes of life. The next to sing was Shifang. Her voice still had the same charm, but it was mixed with strong emotions. That was her deep love for the land of Hong Kong. The performance of the two superstars and the Queen of Pearl of the Orient could be said to be impeccable, and the tacit cooperation between the two was even more impeccable, making this new and special work instantly have a powerful charm that touched people's hearts. Of course, a good song could make a singer, but only an outstanding singer could make a classic. At this moment, countless audiences believed that this song Pearl of the Orient would certainly become a classic. The combination of Qin Gangxing and Shifang was unparalleled. This also made many fans of Lu Qin and Qin Feier involuntarily sweat. For people singing the same song was of course a glory, but it also brought great pressure. With Qin Gangxing and Shifang's performance in front of them, could Lu Qin and Qin Feier show a matching level of strength? Let the sea breeze blow for 5,000 years, every tear seems to speak of your dignity. After Shifang, Lu Qin very naturally took over the melody that she had just finished and made his own voice. A high-spirited, passionate, and unyielding voice. Let the tides accompany me to bless you. Please don't forget my face that will never turn yellow. In the next moment, Qin Feier finished the first section of The Pearl of the Orient with her heavenly voice. Her smile was bright and brilliant, and her voice was filled with incomparable pride. The boat bends into the harbor. Looking back, the sea is boundless. Pearl of the East, embrace me, let me warm your desolate chest. The last few lines were sung by the four of them. Their different voices blended together perfectly, singing out their common feelings. As the singing continued, the applause exploded in an instant. Many people were so excited that they stood up and clapped with all their might, paying tribute to the four singers on the stage. They were emotional, moved, and full of admiration. The Pearl of the Orient was undoubtedly a very beautiful lyrical song. It wrote about the vicissitudes of Xiangjiang's 100 years of vicissitudes through a high degree of cultural feelings and a unique perspective. At the same time, it also sang the deep nostalgia of the people of Xiangjiang for their homeland, which was connected by blood to China, with a unique oriental tune, soothing the scars of their homeland's fate. This was also a very positive work. Although Xiangjiang had already returned, after 100 years of vicissitudes of colonization, many people of Xiangjiang still remembered it clearly. Only after losing it would they know what was precious. This song was also expressing the feelings of millions of people of Xiangjiang. Xiangjiang and the motherland would always be their home. Only home would there be love, only with love would there be warmth, and home would always be their own harbor. The Pearl of the Orient, my love, are you still romantic? With the help of satellite signals, the song was spread all over the motherland and the world. Let all the Chinese who were sitting in front of the TV and computers, and those who were holding tablets or mobile phones to watch the live broadcast of the celebration party, listen to this song. Not far from Century Square, the Victoria Harbor was once again filled with dazzling fireworks. Tonight, Xiangjiang was destined to be sleepless. On the second day of the celebration, the front pages of major media in Xiangjiang and China were basically occupied by the same news, among which the content related to the celebration party took up a lot of space. This year coincided with the anniversary celebration, so the standard of the celebration party was higher than usual. The number of invited guests, the number of live audiences, the number of participating stars, and even the number of tourists to Hong Kong had all broken the previous record. Grand, wonderful, perfect, successful. Many words of praise filled the pages of newspapers and websites. The praise from all walks of life undoubtedly drew a successful end to this grand celebration. But the most mentioned was still the four words, the Pearl of the Orient. These four words were originally a beautiful name for Xiangjiang, but now it had another meaning. It was a song created by Lu Qin and sung by four superstars, Lu Gangxing, Shi Fang, Lu Qin and Qin Fei. Many people in the circle, including many professional music critics, highly praised The Pearl of the Orient, believing that this song created a new height for Lu Qin as a singer. Wang Ninghai, a professor at Xiangjiang University and a famous music critic, wrote on his blog, "The Pearl of the Orient is a song that belongs to Xiangjiang, and also a song that belongs to China. It sings the inseparable cultural home feelings of Xiangjiang to the motherland, tells the destiny complex of homesickness of the Chinese people since ancient times, and deeply reveals the unique, cultural nostalgia in Chinese civilization. It is a rare classic." As one of the singers, Lu Gangxing was also full of praise for Lu Qin when interviewed by the media after the party. He thought that Lu Qin deserved the title of the most outstanding singer in Chinese pop music. And this song, The Pearl of the Orient, will also become the main work of his new album released early next year. Another singer, Shi Fang, also expressed the same view. With this song, and through the mouth of Lu Gangxing, the heavenly king of Xiangjiang, and Shi Fang, Lu Qin's fame and status in the entertainment circle in Xiangjiang suddenly jumped to a higher level, and he entered the ranks of the top stars, becoming an existence that everyone paid attention to. As for the domestic market, he was already a hot potato. His popularity was unparalleled. People waving checks and running to Qinfei Media to seek cooperation were simply breaking the threshold. Lu Xi's 3 mobile phones kept ringing all day long. She was simply annoyed to no end. However, Lu Qin and Qinfei were even more low-key. They declined many media interviews and quietly flew back to the capital the next day after the performance in Xiangjiang. Note: lyrics/composer of The Pearl of the Orient, Luo Daiyou. Chapter 750. It was already very late when he got home. "I'm so tired," Qinfei threw her handbag casually, and then threw herself on the big sofa in the living room in an unladylike manner. She twisted her graceful body and made a satisfied moan that was easily misunderstood. "Well, home is the most comfortable." Of course it was comfortable. This custom-made sofa was made of very high-end fabrics and leather. The design was made by a famous designer. The biggest feature was that it was very comfortable whether sitting or lying down. Lu Qin put the suitcase aside and said with a smile, "Are you hungry? I'll cook 2 bowls of noodles." The two took the afternoon flight from Hong Kong back to the capital, but because the air route was too busy, there was a long traffic control, so they waited at the airport for a full 3 hours before boarding the plane. Then they arrived in the capital and happened to be in the evening rush hour. As a result, the road was blocked for more than 2 hours. After such a torment, Lu Qin was still fine, but Qinfei was really physically and mentally exhausted. Lying on the sofa, she was too lazy to move. She groaned weakly, headache, no appetite. Lu Qin was a little distressed. He walked over to sit on the sofa and let Qinfei's head rest on his thigh. Then he gently massaged her temple and said softly, "Then I'll order some takeout. What do you want to eat?" Qinfei groaned a few times and said angrily, "I don't want to eat anything and I don't want to work anymore." Okay, Lu Qin said with a smile, "It's up to you. I'll accompany you to rest at home these days. Other things will be put aside first." In fact, Lu Qin was very clear that his girlfriend was just a little angry occasionally. In fact, her career ambition was stronger than his. Once she was engaged in work, she often forgot to eat and sleep and worked harder than anyone else. From an unknown newcomer to today's superstar, Qinfei relied not only on luck, but more importantly her efforts and persistence. No one's success was casual and Qinfei was no exception. If she really had to give up all her work and retire from the entertainment industry to enjoy her life, she would not be willing. Hearing Lu Qin's words, Qinfei couldn't help but giggle. She stretched out her arms and hugged Lu Qin's neck. Her eyes were filled with tenderness as she asked, "Tell me the truth. Have you ever been annoyed when I'm being unreasonable?" Lu Qin replied without hesitation, "Never." It wasn't easy for two people to fall in love, and it was even more difficult to get along. Especially in the entertainment industry, there were too many temptations and fetters. As a celebrity couple, it was impossible for them to always be harmonious. If love was to last forever, mutual understanding and respect were very important. Qinfei's personality was naturally very good, but sometimes she would lose her temper and even cause trouble for Lu Qin, getting a little jealous. If Lu Qin was still the Lu Qin from 3 years ago and had not experienced that strange dream, perhaps he would have broken up with Qinfei under heavy pressure. However, the 3 lives in the dream had given him maturity and experience that far exceeded that of ordinary people. It had also created a broad mind and a forgiving heart. Therefore, although Chen Feier was older than Lu Qin, in the relationship between the two, Lu Qin's tolerance and generosity were the most important weights to maintain the relationship between the two. I don't believe it. Chen Feier said that she didn't believe it, but her eyes were smiling and she was very happy. Her eyes were even more gentle and charming. Lu Qin couldn't resist the temptation and immediately lowered his head to kiss her fragrant lips. Chen Feier passionately catered to him, and her fingers inserted into Lu Qin's hair. Her starry eyes were half closed and her breathing was rapid. She had already been connected with the earth fire by the heavenly thunder. Ding ling ling, just when the two of them couldn't stop, Lu Qin had just taken it off and thrown it into the pocket of his clothes. The ringtone of his mobile phone suddenly rang, startling both of them. Damn, Lu Qin scolded very unhappily, and simply ignored it and continued to be intimate with Chen Feier. This mobile phone was a private phone, and it was set to only be dialed by relatives and friends on the address book. Strangers definitely couldn't call in, so unless something big happened, it would not be continuously harassed. As a result, the mobile phone really rang non-stop. Chen Feier couldn't stand it first and smiled and pushed him away. Answer the phone in case there's something important. Lu Qin shook his head speechlessly, propped up his body to sit up and took his clothes. He took out his mobile phone and found that it was Li Mushi who called. Lu Qin was immediately relieved and couldn't help complaining when he picked up the phone. Sister Mushi, it's morning on your side and it's late at night here. What happened? It's winter time in the United States and there is a 13-hour time difference between New York and Beijing, so it's late at night here, and it's still morning there, just reversed. Did I disturb you and Chen Feier? Li Mushi said with a smile on the phone. If that's the case, it doesn't matter if I call later. Lu Qin couldn't help looking at the phone in his hand, suspecting that Li Mushi had mastered some kind of powerful hacking method to be able to know his every move from thousands of miles away in New York. His guess was too accurate, wasn't it? He said with a wry smile. Sister Mushi, don't joke with me, Li Mushi said with a smile. That's not a joke. I just called to ask, as a newly born billionaire, what do you think? A newly born billionaire? Lu Qin was stunned and didn't understand what Li Mushi was talking about. But he quickly came to his senses. The crowdfunding website is officially listed on NASDAQ. Li Mushi sighed and said, Young Master Lu, I really admire you. You don't care about such a big thing. Lu Qin smiled. The listing of the crowdfunding website on NASDAQ in the United States can be described as twists and turns. In order to ensure the success of the listing, Li Mushi went to New York for half a year, during which he experienced many negotiations. Nowadays, the domestic internet market has been cleanly divided by the giants. If the new generation of internet companies has enough strength and fighting power, it is very difficult for them to enter the US stock market through venture capital to make money only by relying on one or two creative products. American capitalists are not fools, so even if the crowdfunding website has an innovative model and good profitability, it has gone through many twists and turns and paid a lot of price, and finally completed the most important process. As the founder of the crowdfunding website, Li Mushi originally invited Lu Qin to the NASDAQ Live Exchange site to participate in the opening ceremony of the crowdfunding website. It's just that because Lu Qin needs to attend the Hong Kong Homecoming Day celebration party, he was unable to do so. But Li Mushi also called Lu Qin at the first time. Share this joy together. Chapter 751. On December 1st, Lu Qin, who was still asleep, received a call from Li Mushi again. Crowdfunding was officially listed on NASDAQ at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 30th. The opening price was US $23.50 and it continued to rise. By the time the market closed at 4 p.m., the share price had risen to US $45.76, up nearly 200%. The market value of crowdfunding has also reached US $3.9 billion. Although it has not created a market legend, and the 200% first-day increase is not among the top 10 internet companies listed on NASDAQ, compared with the past 5 years, the results of crowdfunding are undoubtedly very proud. The success of crowdfunding's IPO on NASDAQ has created many billionaires at the same time. Leaving aside Li Mushi, who holds the most shares, Lu Qin's net worth has soared by nearly US $400 million overnight because he holds 10% of the founders' shares of crowdfunding. This is just the beginning. Li Mushi said triumphantly on the phone, Our goal is a share price of US $100 and a market value of US $10 billion. Crowdfunding has such strength. Li Mushi is not so complacent that she gets carried away. Although the online crowdfunding model created by crowdfunding no longer enjoys commercial creative copyright protection, with its innovative model and first-mover advantage, Coupled with a large amount of capital investment and market development in the early stage, the market share of crowdfunding is far ahead of the second place in the face of competition from many competitors in the same industry. At present, crowdfunding has a market share of 65% in China and more than 30% in the United States, and it made a profit last year. This year's profit has increased significantly, so the opening price has risen sharply. According to the estimates of professionals, in the next 2 days, the stock price of crowdfunding should have a certain growth. If the same performance growth can continue next year, then breaking through the market value of US $10 billion is really not a dream. Congratulations, Sister Mushy. Lu Qin said with a smile, the richest woman in the world. Li Mushy said, what kind of richest woman am I? There are many women richer than me in China. Lu Qin quibbled, I'm talking about those under the age of 30. Li Mushy currently holds 37.5% of crowdfunding shares. Even according to the market value on the first day, she has a net worth of nearly US $1.5 billion. Among the richest women in China under the age of 30, she is really qualified to be the richest woman in China. I don't count as someone under 30. Li Mushy corrected him again very seriously, I know 2 people who are worth more than that. But if they can reach a market value of 10 billion, that's basically enough. Lu Qin smiled and said, Sister Mushy, I believe you can do it. Li Mushy's efforts are inseparable from the crowdfunding website's success today. In order to get the crowdfunding website listed on Nasdaq, she devoted all her time to her work. She didn't fall in love or go shopping and often forgot to eat and sleep. This was the reward she deserved. Lu Qin chatted with Li Mushy for a while longer before hanging up. When he put down the phone, he looked at the time. It was 5:17 in the morning, and the sun was not up yet. That's $400 million worth of assets? Felt like a dream. Lu Qin leaned against the headboard. His mind was very clear and he couldn't fall asleep anymore. Who called? Qin Feier woke up in a daze. She opened her sleepy eyes and asked, what time is it? She twisted her head, and the quilt covering her body slipped down. Unconsciously, her spring scenery was exposed. Lu Qin helped her cover the quilt again and said, it's Sister Mushy's phone call. Nasdaq has just closed, and the market value of the crowdfunding website has almost reached $4 billion. Qin Feier was taken aback and completely sobered up. $4 billion? Lu Qin gave an affirmative answer, yes. Qin Feier couldn't help but widen her eyes. Didn't you earn $400 million? Lu Qin said with a smile, it's only a little more, and Sister Mushy said it will rise again. Really? Qin Feier was speechless. She has been in the business for more than 10 years, working hard to make money by singing, and then investing all the hard-earned money in real estate. At present, her accumulated net worth is only about 1 billion yuan. Lu Qin just started a website and then sold most of his shares. In the end, the remaining shares were worth billions. It was really embarrassing. Qin Feier reached out and pinched Lu Qin. It's so unfair. I won't work in the future. You support me. Lu Qin smiled and hugged her. I can't ask for more. In the future you can drink 2 bowls of soybean milk. 1 bowl of sweet soybean milk, 1 bowl of savory soybean milk, and you can eat as many as you want. How about it? Qin Feier giggled and said, I don't want to drink soybean milk and eat fried dough sticks. Lu Qin pressed her under his body, kissed her face and said vaguely, then change to tofu pudding. Buy 2 bowls, drink 1 bowl and pour 1 bowl. Don't. Being tossed and turned by the waves, the morning suddenly became charming. It was the beginning of a new day. Friday, December 1st, tomorrow was a weekend. The pace of people going to work became particularly brisk. Office workers took the subway or bus early to go to work. The city's traffic became busy again. In the crowded carriages, urban head-down people holding mobile phones could be seen everywhere. Then many fans of Lu Qin saw Lu Qin's name in the headlines of the economic and financial sections of major portals. The $400 million in bold and black was particularly eye-catching. The crowdfunding website was successfully listed on Nasdaq, and the star founder's net worth increased by more than $400 million. Total net worth exceeds $5 billion, revealing the history of the richest star Lu Qin. The rise of a miracle. The Waves blog has exploded and all kinds of congratulatory and envious comments, like a tide, poured into Lu Qin's blog. Many people in the circle have Lu Qin to express their congratulations. It is not news for stars to participate in listed companies, especially big artists. They are ashamed to show their faces without the shareholder identity of several companies under their names. There are many of them who have increased their wealth by participating in the listing of companies. But Lu Chen's situation is different from those of his peers. First of all, he is the founder of the crowdfunding website which was established by him. Second, the crowdfunding website is not listed in China or Hong Kong, but on Nasdaq, which is the most difficult. That is to say, what Lu Chen earns is the money of American shareholders. This achievement alone is enough to make many entrepreneurial rookies in the business and internet circles feel ashamed. Although Lu Chen basically withdrew from the management of the crowdfunding website after transferring most of his shares, the successful listing of the crowdfunding website still gave him a golden halo. Chapter 752. In the era of the surge of the internet, Nasdaq has created countless myths. Many innovative new internet companies can easily create a market value of more than a dozen or even billions or tens of billions of dollars by burning money. Wealthy venture capitalists rush to the market, waving their checks to make the market hotter and hotter. After promoting the listing of the companies they invested in, they made a lot of money. After selling the shares to ordinary investors at a high price, they proudly wiped their mouths and left. However, as the waves receded, it was clear who was swimming naked. The two far-reaching stock disasters have deeply educated shareholders and small and medium investors. The previous set of tricks that worked 100 times a day has long been untenable on Nasdaq. This has also led to the lower and lower probability of new domestic internet companies going public in the United States, and they can only seek to survive in Hong Kong or the mainland growth enterprise market. In such a realistic context, the completion of the IPO of the online crowdfunding on Nasdaq, and the share price rose by nearly 100% on the first day. In the eyes of many people in the industry, it is really a small miracle. As a star shareholder and founder of the online crowdfunding, Lu Chen has undoubtedly received too much attention so that many people have ignored the real promoter and contributor to the listing of the online crowdfunding on Nasdaq. On December 2nd, the online crowdfunding stock price continued to rise, breaking through $50, and the market value of Lu Chen's shares really exceeded $400 million and went straight to $500 million. The news from the other side of the ocean was passed back to China, and the enthusiasm of public opinion increased. China Financial News, which can be called the flagship level in the domestic financial and economic circle, analyzed the successful experience of the online crowdfunding on its front-page headlines, believing that the innovative internet model still has great potential. Although the main market is divided by several internet giants, small and medium enterprises still have the possibility of breaking out of the encirclement. Compared with those less professional media, China Financial News has undoubtedly paid more attention to Li Mushi, the head of the online crowdfunding, than to Lu Chen, and has praised the young CEO. But in the same way, China Financial News has also affirmed Lu Chen's genius mind. Unlike the professional media, ordinary media and the vast number of netizens are staring at Lu Chen. While praising and envying him, there have also been some discordant comments on the blog network. Some people said that Lu Chen has now easily earned 2 or 3 billion. Should he take out some money to do good things? As a result, he was immediately scolded by others. Among the celebrities in the domestic entertainment industry, there weren't many that could surpass Lu Chen in terms of donations. The Chin Fei Charity Fund, founded by Lu Chen and Chin Fei, had been established for almost 2 years. The fund's assets had increased from the original tens of millions to the current 300 million, 70% of which came from Lu Chen's personal donation, 20% from Chin Fei, and the remaining 10% from their friends in the circle. In other words, although Chin Fei Charity Fund was a public charity fund, it had never solicited donations from the public. Most of the money came from Lu Chen's own pocket. Most importantly, Lu Chen had only made his debut 3 years ago. He had taken out so much money, all of which was earned through his own hard work. In terms of his attitude towards charity, who could compare? Now, some people actually think that Lu Chen should take out more money. It's ridiculous. In this world there are many people who hate the rich, but in fact most of the hate the rich hate those who are rich and heartless, not those who rely on hard work and talent to get rich. Therefore, this kind of provocation, which is obviously malicious, has no market on the internet. Even if there are some water armies jumping up and down, they were quickly scolded away by the saliva of Lu Chen's fans. Some people also expressed regret, because the crowdfunding website was founded by Lu Chen. Now that it is listed on Nasdaq, he only holds 10% of the shares, a bit of a feeling of making wedding clothes for others. This kind of statement has a bit of a market among the netizens who pay attention to this matter, including Lu Chen's fans. Think about it. If Lu Chen hadn't sold so many shares and now held 50%, it would be more than 10 billion. He suffered a loss, he suffered a big loss. But people who really understand the creation, development and listing process of the crowdfunding website, as well as many people in the industry, scoff at this completely amateur statement. In the development of the internet, it is normal for the shares held by the founders to be diluted continuously, and it is also an essential process on the road to listing. If Lu Qin really holds 50% or more of the crowdfunding shares, then it would be impossible for the crowdfunding website to have a successful IPO. Most importantly, the core of Lu Chen's career has always been in the entertainment industry. When he established the crowdfunding website, it was more of a playful investment nature. It is already commendable to retain 10% of the shares. Therefore, Lu Chen did not suffer a loss at all. It should be said that his original investment has received a 100-fold return. Public opinion was turbulent, and Lu Chen was once again pushed to the forefront of the storm. Lu Chen, on the other hand, has remained silent about this. He did not even update his own blog. He declined interviews from many heavyweight media and spent all his time on work. The shooting of You from the Star was officially completed. The post-production, dubbing, soundtrack and other work had made him so busy that he couldn't breathe. How could he care about the right and wrong of the outside world? It was not a good thing to be in the limelight too much, and it was necessary to cool it down appropriately. However, what he didn't expect was that an American media rushed to join in the fun at this time. On December 4th, the United States Time magazine launched its latest issue, and the cover was impressively Lu Chen. It once again caused a sensation in China. This was the first time that this famous magazine, which has a wide influence in the world, published a photo of a Chinese star on the cover. In the past, 4-star artists in China, including Hong Kong and Taiwan, have appeared on the cover of Time magazine, but without exception they were on the cover of the Asian edition. Therefore, Lu Chen was the first to receive such treatment. In the cover introduction of Time, the world-renowned magazine praised Lu Chen's talents and achievements in Chinese pop music, film and television, reviewed the incident of the UD-725 flight that caused a sensation in the United States, and even specifically mentioned Lu Chen's song Lethier Go. Then, it elaborated on Lu Chen's relationship with the crowdfunding website that has just been listed on NASDAQ, and talked about Lu Chen's contribution to charity. At the end of the article, the editor of Time called Lu Chen an outstanding representative of the younger generation of Asia, and a leading figure of the new generation of the Chinese entertainment industry. Chapter 753. Brother Lu, you're really awesome now. Liao Jia's hoarse voice came from the phone, and the rock and roll brother shouted, "Treat, it's a must." Lu Chen said with a smile, "No problem. You decide the time and place and I'll pay for it." In fact, he had dinner with Liao Jia in Hong Kong a few days ago, because the latter also participated in the return celebration party, but the meal was treated by Chen Gangxing. This time, Liao Jia called to ask Lu Chen to treat him, because he was on the cover of the United States Time Weekly. This honor is unique in the entertainment industry. In the nearly 100 years since the establishment of the United States Time Weekly, only 11 people from China have been on the cover. All of them are prominent figures who have had a profound impact on the world's politics and economic pattern, or have made indelible contributions. Lu Chen is the only star artist. The shock caused by this incident in China was much greater than the successful listing of the crowdfunding website he founded on NASDAQ. Even national television media broadcast related news, which can be said to be a special honor. The last person from China to be on the cover of the United States Time Weekly was 10 years ago. If the listing of online crowdfunding means profit, then the cover of Time Weekly undoubtedly represents fame. Lu Chen's name once again appeared in the headlines of major media, making it impossible for him to keep a low profile. The direct impact of this is that his blog fans have increased by more than 10 million again, and are about to break through 100 million. As an artist in the entertainment industry, Lu Chen's popularity has really stood at the peak. Compared with other big stars, what he lacks is nothing more than a thick enough foundation and a golden prize. In fact, Lu Chen's foundation has gradually accumulated to a considerable height with the fanatical ratings of You from the Star, and the upcoming movie, The Smiling, Proud and Proud Wanderer. As for the prize, according to Lu Chen's fans, he no longer needs to use the prize to prove himself. After ending the call with Liao Jia, Lu Chen's black Mercedes-Benz stopped steadily at the door of the headquarters of Qinfei Media. This guy, he still talks so much nonsense. Chen Feier, who was sitting next to Lu Chen, was very dissatisfied. He warned Lu Chen, "You can treat Liao Jia to a meal but don't compete with a drunkard like him. Otherwise I won't agree." Chen Feier had known Liao Jia for many years, but he had never had a good impression of him. He believed that Liao Jia had given up on himself. Although she would not stop Lu Qin from dating Liao Jia, she was wary of the latter's influence on Lu Qin. Of course, Liao Jia wasn't a bad person. He was straightforward, big and carefree. He had a strong Jianghu vibe, so he was very popular in the circle. But because of this, he had a great influence on his friends. Moreover, he was a playful person and often caused trouble. He had even been in and out of the police station several times. The entertainment industry was a big dye vat. No matter how pure and flawless a person was immersed in it, it was inevitable that he would be stained with color. Only a few people who were truly determined could maintain their original hearts. Qin Feier believed in Lu Qin but not Liao Jia. Especially now that Lu Qin was so popular that he must be watched by countless eyes. If the paparazzi secretly took a photo of him drunk and making a fool of himself, it would really be a big joke. Lu Qin put away his hot phone, nodded and said, "I know what to do." He knew what Qin Feier was worried about, so he didn't object to her advice. Although the outside media was flattering him, Lu Qin didn't get carried away. Instead, he was very calm. "Good boy." Seeing that Lu Qin listened to her words, Qin Feier smiled sweetly and kissed him on the cheek. Lu Qin couldn't help laughing and reached out to open the car door. It had been 5 days since he came back from Hong Kong. This was the first time that Lu Qin had returned to the company's headquarters. After returning to Beijing, he spent most of his time in the film and television city. The two got out of the car together and walked into the company's gate hand in hand. As soon as he stepped into the hall on the ground floor, Lu Qin felt that the atmosphere of the scene was very wrong. Not only was it clean, but there were also all kinds of beautiful potted flowers. A long rope was pulled up from the ceiling, and there were countless colorful flowers tied to it. The employees of Qinfei Media seemed to have all gathered in the hall. They lined up in a neat line, and the stairs leading to the upper floor were also full of people. The blooming smiles were more beautiful than flowers. And Lu Shi stood in the middle of the hall in front of all the employees. Seeing such a scene, Lu Qin and Qin Feier couldn't help but look at each other. Lu Qin couldn't help but ask, "Sister, what are you doing?" Lu Shi smiled slightly and suddenly clapped her hands. This was undoubtedly a signal. As her applause sounded, everyone in the hall applauded in unison. Bang, bang, bang. Several employees standing in the crowd unscrewed the ribbon nozzle, and ribbons were instantly shot into the air and then sprinkled down, making the atmosphere more warm and festive. As a member of Qinfei Media, everyone was really proud. Although the company had only been established for a year or two, the vitality it showed gave them the motivation to work hard. Most importantly, as the soul of the company, Lu Qin brought everyone surprises again and again. They increasingly felt that choosing to join Qinfei Media was the right choice. In the applause, the sister took 2 steps forward and opened her arms to give Lu Qin a big hug. "Congratulations." Lu Qin completely understood and smiled. Thank you everyone." The applause became more orderly and louder. Many people were so excited that their faces turned red and they clapped desperately. Holding Lu Qin, Lu Shi suddenly found that her brother had really grown up. Not only was he a lot taller than her, but his physique was also far stronger than before, and he was already soaring in the sky like an eagle. In fact, she should have discovered it long ago, but now she really woke up. In addition to joy and relief, there was also a trace of disappointment in her heart. Where did time go? In the blink of an eye, 20 years quietly passed. And Lu Qin was no longer the little boy who followed her and shouted, "Sister, sister," and asked for hugs with a runny nose. Looking at the sister and brother who were hugging each other in front of her, Qin Feier felt that her eyes were astringent, and something was about to flow out, with a little sadness. Once upon a time she also had such warm family affection, but things have changed. Lu Shi let go of Lu Qin, smiled at Qin Feier and then said, "Let's go, there are guests upstairs." Lu Qin nodded, took Qin Feier's hand again and followed Lu Shi upstairs. Today he came to the company because there were several very important guests who needed him to come in person. These guests were from Korea. Chapter 754. Qinfei Media's VIP room was renovated 2 months ago. Lu Shi hired a famous Beijing designer to design it in a very pure Chinese style. It was normally only used to receive true VIPs. The few guests sitting across from Lu Qin and Qin Feier were undoubtedly VIPs, especially the young man in his 20s in the middle. His identity was extraordinary. Yu Sunghian, the third heir of the Beijing Financial Group and the chairman of the Beijing Financial Group. The Beijing Financial Group was one of the 5 largest financial groups in Korea. Although it wasn't as powerful as the famous Samsung Financial Group, it still had a lot of assets and a lot of investments in the country. The Beijing Financial Group was an important part of the Beijing Financial Group. The 28-year-old Yu Sunghyun was able to become the chairman of the Beijing Financial Group not only because of his identity as the third prince of the Beijing Financial Group, but also because of his outstanding talent. He had studied in the United States and had 2 master's degrees. After returning to China, he was appointed to take over the Beijing Financial Group, which was in danger due to the insider door incident. It only took him 2 years to restore the reputation of the Beijing Financial Group and re-solidify the Beijing Financial Group's position in the industry. Plus, Yu Sunghyun was young and handsome, so many Koreans, especially Korean girls, viewed him as an idol. Lu Qin had seen news about Yu Sunghyun on the internet. He didn't think that the third prince of the Beijing Financial Group would personally come to Beijing to find him. He couldn't help but sigh at the magic of love. Lu Chen's gaze couldn't help but fall on the woman sitting to the left of Yu Sunghyun. Song Jiajun, 25 years old, was the host of the KBS television station's New Star show. This Korean female host wasn't very beautiful. She had an oval face and willow eyebrows. Her eyes were quite big, and her short hair made her look pure and refreshing. It was very different from the standard plastic surgery face in Korea's entertainment industry. Her voice was very pleasant to hear, and she could speak fluent Chinese. Song Jiajun was Yu Sunghyun's lover. However, Song Jiajun's family background was ordinary, so it was completely different from Yu Sunghyun. It was said that Yu Sunghyun took the initiative to pursue Song Jiajun. With Lu Qingxian's family background, character, and appearance, there were plenty of girls who were more beautiful and outstanding than Song Jiajun who pursued him. However, he fell in love with Song Jiajun at first sight. It was said that he had pursued her for several years and had just established their relationship not long ago. Therefore, in Korea, the evaluation of their relationship was Cinderella's love. Mr. Lu Qin, Jiajun and I are both your fans. Lu Qingxian slowly said in choppy Chinese. She really hopes to invite you to participate in new celebrity show. Please consider it. Just now, both sides had been formally introduced. On Lu Qin's side were him, Qin Fei and Lu Shi. On Lu Qingxian's side, there were also 3 people. In addition to Song Jiajun, there was also an assistant. Lu Qingxian's arrival was very low-key and sudden. It was a completely private meeting. The Dying Consortium's third prince's Chinese wasn't fluent. It was obviously a little difficult for him to express the complete meaning, but his words were full of sincerity. In fact, when he received a call from Lu Shi yesterday, Lu Qin knew the purpose of these two's visit. As early as 2 weeks ago, Korea's KBS TV station contacted Qin Fei Media and invited Lu Qin to participate in the new celebrity show, but Lu Qin declined. Because of this, Lu Qin understood some of the story behind this invitation. Originally, Lu Qin thought that this matter would be over if he refused. He didn't expect that Lu Qingxian would actually bring Song Jiajun to invite him, which really surprised him. Lu Qin couldn't help but say, "Mr. Lu Qingxian, you are really?" He paused and didn't know what to say. Was he saying that Lu Qingxian was too exaggerated? Or was he too stubborn? With the Beijing Financial Group's influence in KBS, it would be a piece of cake for Lu Qingxian to invite any Korean celebrity. There was no need for him to personally make an appearance. As long as KBS sent a word over, which Korean celebrity would dare to reject? Of course, Lu Qin could ignore KBS, but with Lu Qingxian's status he had his own dignity and face. Logically speaking, after being rejected once, even if it was indirectly, he shouldn't have taken the initiative to come to him again. After all, this wasn't a matter of life and death for the Dying Consortium. It could be said that if the Korean media found out about what Lu Qingxian was doing now and reported it, it would be very embarrassing for both him and the Dying Consortium. The pride of the Koreans is very strong. Lu Qingxian clearly knew what Lu Qin wanted to express. He smiled and held Song Jiajun's hand. His eyes were full of gentleness as he looked at her. "Mr. Lu Qin?" he asked Lu Qin, "if you were me and Jiajun was?" "Miss Qin Fei, I think you would understand." Song Jiajun's face suddenly turned red, which made her look even more charming. Lu Qin was stunned for a moment and couldn't help but laugh. Because of love. If he was Lu Qingxian, would he be willing to put down his pride and ask someone to come to his door for the sake of the person he loved? Lu Qin's answer is that there is no need to think too much. Qin Fei, whose name was called, also smiled. She looked at Lu Qingxian with admiration. Qin Fei wasn't interested in Lu Qingxian's identity as the Dying Consortium's successor, but his infatuation with Song Jiajun moved her. She couldn't help but have a good impression of him. Qin Fei lightly kicked Lu Qin's leg. Lu Qin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Okay, Mr. Lu Qingxian, you've convinced me. I think I should be able to free up my schedule next month to participate in Song Jiaxin's show. Lu Qingxian immediately revealed a look of surprise. He stood up excitedly and bowed to Lu Qin. Thank you. Lu Qin quickly stood up and bowed back. You're too kind. He extended his hand to Lu Qingxian. Lu Qingxian shook hands with him and the two looked at each other and smiled. Qin Fei suddenly said, Miss Jiaxin, are you willing to add me? Song Jiaxin exclaimed softly. She seemed to be in disbelief. Really? When she got an affirmative answer from Qin Fei, she immediately cheered like a little girl. That's great. In South Korea today, the most influential Chinese celebrity was undoubtedly Lu Qin, followed by Qin Fei. One Autumn in My Heart, one Full House of Romance, and the other You from the Star, which was currently sweeping the South Korean screen. The popularity of the two had even surpassed most of the A-list celebrities in South Korea. Being able to invite Lu Qin was already a victory. Inviting Qin Fei at the same time was simply a guarantee of ratings. Most importantly, Song Jiaxin was not only a fan of Lu Qin, but also a fan of Qin Fei. For her, there was nothing happier than this. Chapter 755. With a brisk pace, Tong Xinyao walked into the headquarters of Qin Fei Media like the wind. The front desk lady immediately showed a big smile and greeted enthusiastically, Miss Tong, good morning. After a pause, she added, I wish the album a hit. Thank you. Tong Xinyao returned a kind smile to the other party and kept walking to the stairs. Good morning, Miss Tong. Hello, Miss Tong. Xinyao, I wish your album a hit. Along the way, the company's employees and managers all greeted Tong Xinyao with a smile and sent sincere blessings. Tong Xinyao was one of the few signed artists under Qin Fei Media, and she was the youngest and most beautiful. She had a good personality, so no one in the company didn't like her. Most importantly, as a newcomer promoted by Qin Fei Media, she was supported by two top stars, Lu Qin and Qin Fei. Everyone in and out of the circle had to look up to her. Her future as a star could be said to be broad. Tong Xinyao responded all the way and her face was sore from smiling. Until she entered the studio, she breathed a big sigh of relief. Sitting in the chair, she touched her chest and her heart was pounding. Today, Tong Xinyao's mood was more excited than she looked on the surface, and she was worried about gains and losses. Because today was the day when her debut album, Original Dream, was officially released on the market. As a newcomer who had just stepped into the pop music world, her mood was completely understandable. Xinyao. A woman in her 30s followed Tong Xinyao and came into the room. This 20-square-meter room was specially assigned to Tong Xinyao by the company for both work and rest. Although the area was not large, it was equipped with a desk, computer, sofa, TV and so on. The decoration was also quite elegant. As a newcomer, such treatment was enough to make Tong Xinyao's peers envious and jealous. The shrewd woman wearing a beige dress uniform, glasses, and a shrewd face was Tong Xinyao's assistant, Min Li. She closed the door and said, Why did you run so fast? I couldn't catch up with you. If you accidentally fell and hurt your face, how could you go out for publicity? She had a look of exasperation. Tong Xinyao stuck out her tongue and said, Sister Li, I know I was wrong. Min Li shook her head helplessly. She had entered the entertainment industry at the age of 20 and had been in the industry for 15 years. She had worked with 5 or 6 artists, both newcomers and stars. There were even more temporary replacements. However, it was the first time for Min Li to take care of such a pure and innocent girl like Tong Xinyao. Qin Fei Media had been active since this year. Not only had they signed a few newcomers and a band, but they had also been recruiting to expand their strength. Min Li was one of the agents who joined Qin Fei Media through a headhunting company. What attracted Min Li was, of course, the two founders of Qin Fei Media. As someone in the industry, she knew how powerful Lu Qin was, so she gave up another job with a higher salary without hesitation and chose this new company that had been established for less than a year. For Min Li, the most ideal position was to be an assistant to either Lu Qin or Qin Fei. She had the qualifications, but unexpectedly, the company arranged for her to be with Tong Xinyao. To be honest, it was impossible for Min Li not to have any thoughts at that time. She had originally come for the two big names, but in the end she had to take care of a newcomer. Not only was it tiring, but she also did not have the glory of following a big name. Tong Xinyao was indeed a newcomer. She had made her debut halfway through. Before joining China's Voice, she had not gone through any professional training, and she was not the champion of China's Voice. Tong Xinyao was able to sign with Qin Fei Media mainly because of the conflict between the champion, Anxin, and Qin Fei Media. She only got the contract because of luck. Although Lu Qin had the reputation of gold touch and star-making machine in the industry, it was hard to say how much effort he would put into promoting Tang Xinyao. Not everyone in the industry was optimistic about him. In addition, from the perspective of artist training, compared to the endless number of newcomers in the entertainment industry, Tang Xinyao lacked personality highlights and recognition, which made it difficult to promote her. It was still unknown whether Qinfei Media was willing to put in a lot of effort on Tang Xinyao. In the industry there were many artists who were promoted by the company but were still not famous. Most of them had the same problem as Tang Xinyao. Most importantly, Qinfei Media was a company that closely revolved around the two big names, Lu Qin and Qinfei. Last month, at a gathering of friends in the industry, Min Li was ridiculed by someone in the industry whom she had known for many years. Min Li, had been in the industry for so many years. Why was she regressing? Min Li knew very well that the other party was probably jealous. Although Qinfei Media was not big, its strength was top-notch. With two pillars supporting it, its future was limitless. However, the other party's ridicule was not completely unreasonable. It more or less poked at her weak spot. Therefore Min Li held back in her heart and spared no effort to teach Tang Xinyao. Sometimes, it was even to the extent of being strict. However, after getting along for a period of time, Min Li began to really like this beautiful, well-behaved and sensible girl. She also understood the company's intention of arranging herself to Tang Xinyao. It was to use her strength and experience to shelter this delicate flower from the wind and rain. Sisterly, sisterly? Seeing Min Li's distracted look, Tang Xinyao became more and more uneasy. She asked cautiously, "Are you okay? I really know that I was wrong." Min Li suddenly woke up and laughed. "It's okay. You didn't make any big mistakes. Be careful in the future." She looked at the beautiful girl in front of her and secretly envied the others' good luck. It was needless to say that Tang Xinyao signed with Qinfei Media. Everyone said that Tang Xinyao was lucky, sitting at home and picking up a big pie that fell from the sky. As for the company, or more accurately, Lu Qin and Qinfei's nurturing of Tang Xinyao, she had seen it all. Tang Xinyao released her debut album today. How long has it been since she participated in China's Voice? It could be said that out of 10,000 newcomers in the entertainment industry, there might not even be one as lucky as her. If this album sold well, it did not even need to sell well. As long as it sold well, the title of a rising star in the music industry would definitely be hers. At that time, with a few more newcomer awards, she would be sprinting towards the A-list or B-list. Could My First Dream be successful? If it was any other newcomer's debut album, Min Li would not be confident. However, Lu Qin personally wrote the title song. There was no precedent of failure. What a lucky girl. Min Li's eyes became softer, as if the girl in front of her was shining all over. It was like shining stars. Chapter 756. Fuzhou City, Academy Road. Today was a Saturday, and the weather in Fuzhou City was exceptionally sunny. The sun shone brightly and the temperature was just right. Thus, the business district around the college road was especially lively. Students from the surrounding universities were all out to shop, have fun, and go on dates. Xinhua Book City, which was located in a prime location on Academy Road, was even more crowded. Every weekend, many students would come here to buy teaching materials and tutorials, or to read new books that had just been published. Usually, there would be authors signing books on the second floor of the Book City on weekends. In the internet era, the business model of Xinhua Bookstore has also changed a lot. In addition to selling books, it has also carried out a variety of businesses. The renovated bookstore has a coffee shop, a milk tea ice cream shop, and a variety of audiovisual equipment and even toys. In the past, cassette players, MP3 players, original cassettes, CDs, DVDs, and so on were the best-selling products in bookstores. But now there were very few people who bought CDs. Everyone was used to buying and downloading digital music on the internet. Therefore, the scale of the display cabinet selling these goods has shrunk big and retreated to the corner, but it has not disappeared, because most of the singers who release albums often use the channels of Xinhua Bookstore to sell physical CDs and peripheral products. The cassette players of the past had now been replaced by USB drives, CD sets, dolls, figurines, and so on. There were also large celebrity posters. The original Dream, Tang Xinyao's first album, grandly released. Today, the promotional theme of the Xinhua Bookstore's video and entertainment exhibition area in Fuzhou City's Academy Road was clearly expressed through the color-printed posters, colorful spray-on banners, posters, and so on hanging high above the counters. However, many people were unfamiliar with the name Tang Xinyao and didn't have much interest in her, but many students recognized the girl with a bright smile on the poster. Tong Xinyao, I think she's the runner-up of China's Sing. Yes, I've seen her performance. It's not bad. Wow. Is she releasing a new album now? While people were talking, the big screen TV hanging on the wall of the exhibition area switched, and a beautiful melody poured out from the hi-fi speakers. If pride hadn't been coldly slapped by the sea of reality, how would he know how hard he had to work? Only then could he walk far away. If dreams never fell off a cliff, it was a close call. How would he know a persistent person? It has invisible wings. Plant your tears in your heart, will blossom brave flowers. When you are tired, close your eyes and smell a fragrance. On the TV, a young girl was running along a path full of flowers. She had a ponytail and her face and forehead were covered in sparkling sweat. Although she was tired, her eyes were bright and full of determination. She ran against the wind, accompanied by the singing. The picturesque Mediterranean Sea appeared in front of her, and there were many Greek stone houses standing by the sea. His first dream. The refreshing and energetic singing quickly spread throughout the bookstore. The music video appeared on all the TV screens, attracting the attention of the men and women who were in the bookstore. Today, the customers who visited Xinhua bookstore were mainly students. Many of them were young people in their 20s. It was the first time for them to hear this song that expressed their feelings and was full of inspirational spirit. My first dream is held tightly in my hands. The place he wanted to go the most. How could they turn back halfway? His initial dream would definitely come true. True desire fulfilled, only then would he be able to calculate that he had passed through heaven. The song was telling people that no matter what difficulties and setbacks they encountered, as long as they stick to their original dream, and recall the efforts they made to realize their dreams, they would never give up easily. Only by working hard to stick to their dreams, can they achieve it one day. Youth was flying, and it was the time when people had the most dreams. This song undoubtedly touched the hearts of young boys and girls. The impassioned melody and spirited lyrics undoubtedly deeply moved them. Unknowingly, the audiovisual entertainment exhibition area on the second floor of Xinhua bookstore was surrounded by many customers. On the large poster, Tong Xinyao smiled at everyone, full of sunshine and confidence. On December 16, Tong Xinyao's debut solo album, Original Dream, signed by Chen Fei Media's artist, was released in Xinhua bookstores all over the country, and a digital version was simultaneously sold on QQ Music. As early as last month, the album was launched on the online crowdfunding website. Because it was personally produced by Lu Chen, the results of the crowdfunding presale were quite good, and it ranked among the best among the new singers who debuted this year. Compared with the crowdfunding presale, the online and offline sales results in the next 3 days were the key to determining the future fate of this album. Chen Fei Media has also made careful preparations for this. Unlike many well-known entertainment record companies in the industry, before the album was released, Chen Fei Media did not carry out large-scale high-intensity promotion and publicity for Tong Xinyao, or hire professional public relations companies to hype. This made people feel that Chen Fei Media didn't seem to attach much importance to Tong Xinyao and was unwilling to spend a lot of effort on marketing. There was even a rumor in the circle that Chen Fei didn't want a newcomer who could threaten her position in the company, so she wouldn't invest too much in Tong Xinyao and wanted to suppress Tong Xinyao. This kind of rumor was quite popular, and even some unscrupulous media used obscure writing techniques to expose it. But both Tong Xinyao herself and the employees of Chen Fei Media knew that this kind of rumor was completely nonsense. It was true that the company didn't vigorously promote it, but the investment in this album was not small at all. In the album, the music videos of several songs, including the title song Original Dream, were shot in Crete, Greece, a world-famous tourist destination. This investment alone cost millions. There was no wantonly hype, but the production was not ambiguous at all. Moreover, the investment in a sales terminal like Xinhua Book City was not cheap. It could be said that good steel was used on the edge of the blade. On December 17, the 24-hour sales results of Original Dream were released, including a total of 37,560 sets of CD records and commemorative sets, and QQ Music sold 51,350 copies. This result immediately caused a lot of sensation in the industry. Because the sales of the previous physical album were crowd-funded first, there was nothing to make a fuss about, but the sales of the digital album exceeded 50,000 copies, which surprised people. It should be known that a few years ago, Lu Chen's debut album, You Who Sat Next to Me, only sold more than 60,000 copies in 24 hours on QQ Music. People seem to see a rising star in the music industry. Note, Original Dream lyricist, Yao Ruolong/composer, Miyuki Nakajima. Chapter 757. On December 18, First Dream sold 77,958 copies in QQ Music. By the 19th, the daily sales figure increased to 94,560 copies. Without counting the sales of CD records, the album's online sales have reached 220,000 plus. There is a so-called 72-hour law in online record sales, that is, the sales volume in the first 7 days on the shelf must account for at least 40 to 50% of the total sales, of which the first 3 days are the most critical. How well an album sells, whether it is a flop, a qualified or a big seller, can basically be seen within 72 hours. As a newcomer in the pop music industry, Tang Xinyao's debut album has sold more than 200,000 units in 3 days. The honor of platinum record has been firmly in her hands, and it is not a dream to hit the double platinum, diamond record. Such a result is enough to be comparable to many A-list singers. With the explosion of sales, the market reputation of First Dream is also constantly fermenting. The title song of the same name quickly appeared on various pop music lists, and is expected to occupy a high position on the original music chart released at the weekend. Not only the title song but also the other 2 works by Lu Chen for this album, We Are All Good Children, and 10,000 Can't Bear to Part, have all received a warm response. Especially among the age group between 15 and 25, the number of fans who like Tang Xinjiao has skyrocketed at an exponential rate. Because in the past year neither Lu Chen nor Qin Fei has released a new album and focused their career on film and television, Tang Xinyao's album has also met the needs of fans to a large extent. In particular Lu Chen's fans, because First Dream has 3 works by Lu Chen, they gave unconditional support and contributed to a large proportion of sales. A sweet and pure external image, a fresh and moving singing style, and a song melody that catered to young people, made the beautiful girl who came out of The Voice of China become a real star overnight. Her Waves blog fans quickly broke through the 1 million mark, and the growth was staggering. At the same time, various commercial performances and advertising invitations also flew to Qin Fei media like snowflakes. All of these made the people in the circle have to marvel again. Of course, what they admired was not Tang Xinjiao, but the giant standing behind her, Lu Chen. Lu Chen once again demonstrated the magical magic of gold touch in the music industry and star-making machine. In his hands, it was so easy to make a newcomer famous. There was no need for painstaking hype at all. With a wave of his hand he cultivated a cash cow. His talent had already become a legend. In today's market, once a star singer with a good image and temperament like Tang Xinjiao becomes popular, she can create a rolling source of money for the contracting company, especially in the 2 major areas of commercial performances and advertisements. It is not an exaggeration to say that she is making a lot of money every day. However, Qin Fei Media did not regard Tang Xinjiao as a cash cow. The company declined most commercial performances and advertising endorsements for her. Instead, they spent more money to arrange for Tang Xinjiao to carry out nationwide publicity activities. This showed that Qin Fei Media did not value immediate interests. What they had developed for Tang Xinjiao was a long-term development plan. They first laid a solid foundation and did not care whether she made money or not. This also dispelled the rumors in the circle. It was a joke that Qin Fei intended to suppress newcomers and not let Tang Xinjiao get too much limelight. In today's circle, it was really difficult to find many companies like Qin Fei Media that were not eager for quick success and profits, and were really willing to consider signing artists. Do you know how many people in the circle are jealous of you now? Min Li whispered to Tang Xinjiao in private, so you must be careful during this time, listen to the company's arrangements and work hard to promote the album. Don't worry about other things. Especially the blog, there is the most gossip. Whatever blog you post, you must let me see it first. Min Li's worries were very reasonable. In the past, many newcomers became arrogant and carried themselves away when they just became popular. As a result, they were accidentally caught by others, so their career was bleak. There was a lot of gossip when one became popular. Min Li did not want Tang Xinjiao to make mistakes. Sister Li, I know. Tang Xinjiao stuck out her little tongue and said, I'll listen to you. Min Li smiled and said, it's good that you know. To be honest, I've been in the circle for so long, and I really haven't met a better boss than Lu Chen and Qin Fei. You must know how to be grateful and cherish, don't be like an XN. She shook her head and did not continue. Compared with the current glory of Tang Xinjiao, an XN, the champion of The Voice of China, was really far behind. Although the latter also signed a contract with a record company, except for a few commercial performances and announcements, she did not come up with any decent works, and almost disappeared from the entertainment media. Because of Tang Xinyao, Min Li, who was both an agent and a work assistant, was now also very popular in the circle. There were many people who were willing to make friends with her, so she was more well-informed than before. Tang Xinyao thought for a moment and said, "Sister Li, do you think I should invite Mr. Liu and Mr. Chen to dinner tonight to thank the two teachers? I'm going to Huhai to promote tomorrow." Min Li was pleased and said, "It's good that you have this idea. Then you go and ask yourself, is Boss Liu in the office?" Lu Chen was the legal representative of Qinfei Media and also the director of art, film, television and music, so the employees in the company respectfully called him Mr. Liu, and some directly called him Boss Liu. Min Li was gratified that the girl she took care of had become sensible. Although neither Lu Chen nor Qinfei would care about a meal, the important thing was that Tang Xinyao understood the truth of being grateful, so she would not easily be arrogant. In the past, she had been in charge of a newcomer who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. It was really worrying about the newcomer, but it was not good. "Yes." Tang Xinyao nodded and said, "Mr. Liu seems to be being interviewed. I'll go and ask." Lu Chen was being interviewed and the interviewer was very influential. It was a reporter from People's Music. People's Music was founded in the early days of the founding of the People's Republic. It was sponsored by the China Musicians Association. At the beginning, the content was divided into two parts: review articles and song works. Later, it mainly focused on music reviews. It was a comprehensive music magazine that included theoretical research, mass music work, introduction of foreign music, music knowledge and music activities, reports, etc. As an official mainstream music magazine, People's Music had a very high status in the music industry. It dominated the research and review of serious, traditional, classical, traditional and ethnic music. It rarely involved pop music. The interviewees were basically musicians, music experts and scholars, etc. So when he received the interview notice from People's Music, Lu Chen himself was very surprised. Chapter 758. Not long ago, Lu Chen had just appeared on the cover of Time magazine in the United States. With his current identity and influence, he was fully qualified to appear in any domestic newspaper or magazine. In fact, during this period of time, Qinfei Media had received countless interview requests from various major media, but People's Music was different. It represented the official orthodox mainstream, and would never chase stars like ordinary media. The reason why Lu Chen was able to attract the attention of People's Music was because at the end of last month, he wrote and sang The Pearl of the Orient for the celebration party of Hong Kong's return. This song, sung by Lu Chen, Qinfei, Lu Gangxing and Shifang, had been widely sung and had a very profound and huge influence. The spiritual connotation and ideas contained in The Pearl of the Orient had actually transcended the field of pop music. Its melody and lyrics resonated with tens of millions of people in Hong Kong. The day after the celebration party, Hong Kong satellite TV conducted random interviews on the streets of Hong Kong. As a result, everyone who watched the party, except for foreign tourists, was full of praise for this song. It was said that the Hong Kong Special District Government intended to set The Pearl of the Orient as a patriotic song of love for Hong Kong and be included in the music textbooks for primary and secondary school students. Therefore, the positive impact brought about by The Pearl of the Orient could not be ignored by People's Music, so they sent a senior reporter to interview Lu Chen. In fact, although Lu Chen had created extraordinary achievements in the field of pop music, he also had works with themes such as I Love You China, Beautiful Grassland My Home, and so on. Naturally, there were topics in the mainstream. I think pop music, traditional music and theme music have never been opposed. In fact, a lot of pop music refers to the essence of national music. In front of Tan Ling, the reporter sent by People's Music, Lu Chen spoke with confidence and assurance. Theme works can also combine bel canto, popular and ethnic singing into one. Only the careful interpretation of the song's connotation can definitely make the audience love it. The theme of the interview with Lu Chen by People's Music was very big, involving all aspects of current domestic pop music, traditional music and theme music. A few years ago, domestic pop music could be said to be vain and impetuous. There were fewer and fewer original works. The phenomenon of plagiarism and imitation was very serious. Music from Europe, America, Japan and South Korea flooded the market. Lu Chen has emerged in the Chinese pop music world, which can be said to have changed the situation to a great extent. First of all, the folk song style he brought has injected a clear stream into the music world and greatly enhanced the status of original works. Tian. Over the years, Lu Qin has been leading Chinese pop music on a healthy and positive path. Inspired by his success, a number of outstanding writers and singers have emerged. Therefore, on this issue, Lu Qin was fully qualified to speak. Compared to pop music, the situation of mainstream music and traditional music was even worse and even more awkward. Young people who grew up in the new era did not like them, and not many people were willing to listen to them. As a result, the latter two could only rely on the power of the government to maintain their existence. The issue between pop music, theme music, and traditional music has long been one of the focuses of debate among musicians and music critics. Some people are extreme that it is the impact of a large number of monotonous pop music that purely pursues auditory pleasure on the market, which is an important reason for the decline of theme music and traditional music. Combined with the situation a few years ago, this argument is really not without reason. And Lu Qin is one of the few singers in China who has crossed the two fields, and he has achieved great success. On this big issue, his answer is absolutely impeccable. Lu Qin does not deny the problem of pop music, nor does he avoid the dilemma faced by theme music and traditional music. However, he does not criticize them severely like many people, but puts forward his own ideas and solutions. With examples such as I Love You China and Pearl of the Orient, Lu Qin's answer is naturally very convincing. Even Tan Ling, who has interviewed many famous musicians and well-known scholars, can't help but secretly marvel. Before Lu Qin accepted Tan Ling's interview, he did not know her interview questions, so it was impossible for anyone to prepare an answer for Lu Qin in advance. His answer was obviously the result of careful consideration. This made Tan Ling appreciate the young man in front of her more and more. She said with a smile, "Thank you. Let's take a break first. Let me think about a few more questions." Lu Qin smiled and said, "Okay." After a pause he asked, "Reporter Tan, how is Big Brother Tan recently?" This question was very abrupt, but Tan Ling smiled and said, "He can't be better now. He drinks tea and chats with his friends every day, and occasionally goes fishing. He is really enjoying life." Lu Qin sighed, "I'm very envious." "Don't," Tan Ling said with a smile. "He is retired. Your life has just begun. If you really retire, how many fans will be disappointed?" The two of them were talking about Tan Hong. Tan Ling was Tan Hong's sister, but not his biological sister, but his cousin. At first Lu Qin didn't know it. It was Tan Ling who revealed it herself. Tan Hong and Lu Qin were teachers and friends. The friendship between the two was well known. With this relationship, the interview didn't seem so serious and it was a lot more relaxed and pleasant. While they were talking and laughing, the door of the room was knocked gently. Lu Qin turned his head and said, "Come in." The door opened and Tang Xinyao poked her head in. When she saw Lu Qin and Tan Ling sitting and talking, she couldn't help but shrink her head. She wanted to say something but didn't dare to. Lu Qin asked doubtfully, "Xinyao, why are you here? Come in and talk." Tang Xinyao's pretty face turned red. She nodded quickly and walked in obediently. "Teacher Lu," Lu Qin introduced to Tan Ling, "this is Tang Xinyao, a newcomer signed by our company. This is reporter Tan." Tang Xinyao politely bowed to Tan Ling and said, "Hello, Teacher Tan." Tan Ling got up and shook hands with her. She said with a smile, "Miss Tang is so beautiful. You are more beautiful than in the photo. My daughter is your fan." Tang Xinyao couldn't believe it. She said with a smile, "That's really my honor." Lu Qin asked, "Xinyao, what can I do for you?" Tang Xinyao quickly said, "Teacher Lu, I'm going to Huhai for publicity tomorrow, so I want to invite you and Sister Fei to dinner in the evening. I don't know if you have time." "In the evening?" Lu Qin said with a smile, "I want to invite reporter Tan to dinner so you can pay the bill." Tang Xinyao was surprised. "That's great." Chapter 759. The place where Tang Xinyao invited them was a private restaurant called Dong Family. In recent years, private cuisine has been favored by diners. The so-called private cuisine, as the name implies, is a private dish that is, a specialty dish made by the host in other people's home. Authentic private cuisine usually has no store sign, no fixed menu, and even no full-time waiters. However, the cooking techniques of the dishes are often ancestral, with a unique flavor and limited supply, which can't be eaten in the restaurants in the market. Of course, the price of high-end private cuisine is very high, and it usually needs to be booked a long time in advance. Some top private restaurants only cook one table of dishes a day, and the reservation is half a year later. It is impossible to book a temporary reservation. However, it was the first time for Tang Xinyao to treat two big bosses. Therefore, Min Li, who was advising her, tried her best to find the boss of the Dong family's private home cuisine restaurant and finally got what she wanted. In fact, there are many five-star hotels in the capital, and it doesn't need to be so troublesome to have a meal, but Min Li thinks that it can't show Tang Xinyao's sincerity, so it is the last choice. This Dong family's private home cuisine restaurant was hidden in a private courtyard on South Street. Green bricks, stone tiles and white walls surrounded by lush green trees could be seen. The environment was very elegant. Lu Qin praised, "Xinyao is good. You chose a good place." Chen Fei nodded, "Xinyao can book a temporary seat. Xinyao is considerate. She has lived in the capital for a long time and is very familiar with private restaurants. She knows the difficulty of making a temporary appointment." She guessed that Tang Xinyao was lucky to meet a guest who temporarily canceled a reservation or added a seat. But it is not easy. Tang Xinyao blushed. "I don't know. It's all thanks to Sister Li." Lu Qin and Chen Fei looked at each other and smiled. Both of them liked Tang Xinyao's character very much. Although her family is rich, she has never been spoiled. She is obedient and sensible. Even if she is popular now, she is no different from before. Min Li said with a smile, "I don't dare to take credit. They heard that two big stars, Boss Lu and Boss Chen, are coming, so they specially held a special dinner to invite you." Lu Qin couldn't help laughing. Lu Shi really chose the right person to assign Tang Xinyao as an assistant. The door to the courtyard was tightly shut. Min Li went forward and lightly knocked on the lion head door. Not long after, someone opened the door from the inside. The one who opened the door was a chubby, jubilant-looking man with a round head. When he saw Lu Qin and the others standing at the door, his two small eyes immediately narrowed into two slits. He cupped his hands in obeisance and said with a smile, "I heard the magpies singing just now, so I knew that distinguished guests had arrived. It's my honor to have you all visit my little restaurant." His Beijing accent was very smooth, and his smile was sincere and respectful, making people feel very comfortable listening to him. Min Li asked, "Are you Mr. Dong?" "That's right," the fatty grinned and said, "You must be Sister Min. This way please." Under his guidance, everyone followed over the threshold and moved forward along the stone path. As the refreshing jasmine fragrance hit their nostrils, they couldn't help but feel refreshed. The first thing that came into view was the elegant and clean courtyard. Several sets of tables, chairs and pavilions were covered by white gauze curtains. There were many private rooms on the left and right side of the courtyard. All of them were decorated in a combination of Chinese and Western style, elegant and romantic. Lu Qin and the others entered one of the private rooms. The temperature inside was just right. The bowls, chopsticks, fruit plates and cold plates on the table were also arranged, waiting for them to sit down. The fatty went to prepare the wine and dishes. This kind of private restaurant doesn't order dishes. It only counts the number of people. Everyone will eat what the chef cooks. The taste and standard are absolutely first class, and it is guaranteed that the guests will not be disappointed. If the guests are disappointed, the restaurant naturally can't continue. Although it was Tang Xinyao's treat tonight, Lu Qin was in charge. In addition to inviting Tan Ling, the reporter from People's Music, he also invited Tan Hong and his family. Tan Hong was still on the way, but there were already 6 people here. Tang Xinyao also invited Lu Shi. After a few hours of interviews in the afternoon, Tan Ling seemed to want to talk more. She continued to chat with Lu Qin. Of course, the topic was not as formal as before, but it did not deviate from the original topic. In fact, the topic of pop music and traditional music was enough to write a thick book. From the beginning to the present, it may not be finished even after a few days of chatting. Chen Fei found it interesting and joined in the conversation. Lu Shi told Min Li about Tang Xinyao's nationwide publicity tour. The atmosphere in the private room was very warm. Not long after, Tan Hong came with his wife and little daughter. Sister Fei. Tan Hong got married very early. His wife, Song Wanlu, was also his first girlfriend. The two helped each other in difficult times for more than 20 years. Their deep relationship could be said to be a role model in the circle. They had a son and a daughter together. Tan Hong's son was currently studying abroad. His little daughter, Tan Jiwan, was just 7 years old. She was innocent and lively. When she saw Chen Fei, she immediately rushed up and said, "I missed you so much." "I missed you too." Chen Fei smiled and picked her up and kissed her on her blushing face. Chen Fei and Tan Hong had known each other for many years. He was very familiar with his family and liked this little girl the most. Brother Tan's sister-in-law, Lu Chen complained to Tan Hong, it's not easy to invite you. It's all thanks to reporter Tan. Originally, Tan Hong said that he wouldn't come, so it was Tan Ling who settled it. Song Wanlu smiled and said, he has become an old man who doesn't want to go anywhere. Tan Hong was born in the 1970s. He wasn't very old, but he retired and really stayed away from the entertainment circle. Tan Jiuan shouted, yes, Mom said that Dad is the laziest. Everyone couldn't help but laugh. Lu Chen reached out to Tan Jiuan and said, little one, a long time no see. Let Uncle hug you. He knew Tan Hong's family but he didn't see them much, but he also liked Tan Jiuan very much. Oh. Tan Jiuan immediately turned her head and said, Mom said that girls can't be hugged by boys. The laughter became louder. Lu Chen smiled bitterly and touched his nose, saying, your mother is right, he introduced to Tan Hong, this is Tong Xinyao from my company. She is treating us tonight. Tan Hong nodded and said, hello. Tong Xinyao stuttered a little, Tan? Teacher Tan, nice to meet you. She knew that Tan Hong was coming, but she was really excited when she saw him in person. She couldn't help but bow. Tan Hong smiled and said, you don't have to be so polite. Let's sit down and talk. So everyone sat down again, including the 9 members of Tan Hong's family. It was really a happy gathering. Chapter 760. The orange light shone through the thin white lampshade and evenly illuminated the entire private room. The high table in the corner smelled of sandalwood, creating a unique atmosphere. The host family served plates of meticulously prepared dishes. Spicy shrimp skin, salad, tricolored steamed eggs, golden hook cucumber strips, shredded chicken and silver sprouts. They were all ordinary home-cooked dishes, but they all looked, smelled and tasted great. Although Lu Chen wasn't a true foodie, he had a great appetite in front of delicious food. He was in high spirits and shared a pot of the host family's homemade rice wine with Tan Hong. He felt slightly tipsy and satisfied. Chen Fei had been on a diet recently. He clearly had a very standard body size, but he still wanted to lose a few more kilograms. He wanted to eat but didn't dare to eat too much. He looked very conflicted. Tong Xinyao was a true foodie. She enthusiastically asked the teachers not to be polite and to eat until she was full. She also set an example, waving her chopsticks and eating heartily. Minli couldn't stop her. Sitting next to her was a little foodie. There were 9 osmanthus brown sugar glutinous rice rolls on a plate, and the little girl ate 4 of them. After being scolded by Song Wanlu, she put on a, if you don't let me eat, I'll cry for you to see, attitude which made people smile. Tan Hong drank a few cups of rice wine but didn't eat much. He had retired to his home and paid great attention to his health. He wouldn't have drunk wine if Lu Chen hadn't invited him today. What was interesting was that Tan Ling and Lu Shi had a good chat. Although it was the first time they had met, they felt like old friends. They drank a cup of wine, their faces flushed, and chatted intimately as if they were sisters. This kind of atmosphere was undoubtedly excellent and could really relax people. Lu Chen thought that this private restaurant was very good. In the future he could have everyone come here often as a good pastime. As he was thinking, Tan Jiuan, who had eaten and drunk to her heart's content, ran over. She pulled his arm and said, Big brother Lu Chen, can I ask you for help with something? The little girl blinked her big eyes, revealing a lovely and pitiful expression, making it hard for anyone to refuse. Lu Chen, however, had a heart of stone. He took out his phone and said, then you have to give me a red envelope first. I don't want 1 or 2 and I don't think 1 or 200 is too much. Then we can talk about helping. Tan Jiuan's little face immediately collapsed. She threw herself into Chen Fei's arms and cried, Sister Fei, our big brother Lu Chen is bullying me. Please help me. Song Wanlu glared at her daughter. Stop messing around. Is your butt itching again? Chen Fei did not budge. Big sister will help you, she glared at Lu Chen. Lu Chen could only surrender. Okay. Tell me what you want first. Tan Hong's daughter was very eccentric. Every time they met, she would ask for something and she also liked to play pranks. She was spoiled by her father to the point of being out of control. Well, there was another big sister who was even more spoiled. The little girl immediately smiled and turned around to hug Lu Chen's arm. My school arranged a solo performance for me at the New Year's Gala. I don't want to sing songs that have been sung by others, so I asked Dad to write me a song. Lu Chen nodded. That's great. Is there a problem? There's a big problem. The little girl frowned and complained. Do you know what song he wrote for me? She directly sang, The little white duck swims across the river, squawking and squawking. After only 2 lines, Tan Zhouan's bitter face turned into a look of disdain. Big brother Lu Chen, listen to this. How do you think my classmates will look at me if I sing such a childish song on stage? Lu Chen, the little girl continued to complain. Come on, I'm already a second-year student, not a kid in kindergarten. Dad actually wrote me such a song. It's so embarrassing. Lu Chen, the people next to them all laughed. Only Tan Hong had a helpless and embarrassed expression. The little girl sighed and continued to complain. It's really my misfortune to have such a father. Until now, I haven't even submitted the name of my program, so... She shook Lu Chen's arm hard. Big brother Lu Chen, why don't you write a song for me? I'll send you a red packet of 50 no 100 yuan. How about that? It could be seen that the little girl had made up her mind. She, who had never given back anything, actually threw out a red packet of 100 yuan. Lu Chen was deeply moved. Okay then. The little girl was so happy that she jumped 3 feet high and kissed Lu Chen's face. Big brother Lu Chen is still the best. Lu Chen was completely bought. I'll write it for you now. That's great. The little girl clapped her hands and said, I brought the guitar and laptop here. They're in the car outside. It turned out that she was prepared. Lu Chen was convinced. Then bring them over. The little girl immediately ran to Tan Hong and ignored his dark face. Dad, give me the car key. Tan Ling smiled and said, Zhouan, Aunt will accompany you to get it. Of course, the little girl had no objection. Thank you, Aunt. After getting the car key from the helpless Tan Hong, Tan Ling led the little girl to get the guitar and laptop. Tan Hong smiled bitterly at Lu Chen. My family is unfortunate. He had this daughter at the age of 40, so he spoiled her very much. Now he was reaping what he had sown. Just write a few sentences for her to fool her. Lu Chen smiled. It's not easy to fool primary school students these days. Zhouan is too smart. When he was in primary school, he fooled around with his classmates all day and teased female classmates. He was ignorant and didn't know anything. Now, the millennials were born in the era of the surging tide of information. They began to be exposed to all kinds of information from a very young age, so they were often very precocious. For example, Tan Zhouan was better at using computers and mobile phones than her father. She had set up a QQ group with her classmates and was proficient in all kinds of internet terms. She was not someone who could be fooled by a few candies. If Tan Hong wrote a duckling, she would really think it was too childish. Qin Fei said, it's good to be smart. Then you won't be cheated by boys in the future. As she spoke, she glanced at Lu Chen, but her eyes were full of tenderness and sweetness. Song Wanlu sighed. You dote on her more than old Tan. Every time I teach her a lesson, she says she wants to run away from home to find her sister. You might as well take her away. Qin Fei pursed her lips and smiled. I want to, but big brother Tan won't bear to. Song Wanlu smiled. If you want, then you and Lu Chen can have one too. Sister-in-law, Qin Fei's pretty face blushed. Song Wanlu said seriously, I'm serious. Women should have children as soon as possible. Giving birth to Zhouan was really difficult. My body has not fully recovered until now. Lu Shi raised her hand. I support you. Mom is looking forward to holding a grandson. Lu Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Why did the topic suddenly shift to him and Qin Fei? But there were some things that he had to seriously consider. He looked at Qin Fei and Qin Fei happened to look over. Their eyes met. Their hearts were connected. Chapter 761. As the topic of children was brought up, the atmosphere in the private room became livelier. Other than teasing Lu Chen and Qin Fei, Song Wanlu also talked about her daughter. She knew a lot at such a young age. Being influenced by the modern information society made it difficult for her to educate her daughter. She said to Qin Fei, if you have children in the future, it's best if you have 2 in a row. That way they can play together and you don't have to work so hard to be a father or a mother. Song Wanlu and Tan Hong had a son and a daughter. Their son was already 20 years old. Of course, he couldn't stay at home to take care of his sister. The age difference was too big and they didn't have anything in common. As they were chatting, Tan Ling came back with Tan Zhouan. Tan Ling was holding a laptop bag and a guitar case in each hand. Tan Zhouan skipped behind her and said eagerly, Big brother Lu Chen, it's up to you now. Lu Chen smiled. Okay, it's up to me now. He took the computer bag from Tan Ling and opened it to take out the laptop. It was already installed with composing software, so he immediately started to write music scores. Everyone's eyes fell on him. They saw Lu Chen's fingers flying as he typed on the keyboard. In less than 10 minutes he stopped. It's done. So fast? Tan Hong was very surprised. Even if it was an improvisation, this speed was too heaven-defying. However, he thought about it and realized that he was just trying to make his daughter happy. It wouldn't be appropriate to make it too serious. He felt relieved. Let me see. He had been brooding over the nursery rhyme he had worked so hard to compose for his daughter. Therefore, he couldn't help but be curious about what Lu Chen had taken out in 10 minutes. Lu Chen smiled and handed the laptop over. Tan Hong didn't stand on ceremony. He took it and was ready to pick at it to maintain his dignity. It was probably a bit of resentment from being a father. As a result, he was immediately sucked in and stared at the screen for more than 10 minutes. Song Wanlu and Tan Ling looked at each other. Tan Jiawan grew impatient and reached out to grab the laptop. Quick, let me see. This is what Brother Lu Chen wrote for me. Her family had a long history of learning, and she had started learning music when she was 4 or 5 years old. Reading music scores was no problem for her. However, Tan Hong turned off his computer and shook his head. He asked Lu Chen, "This song is from your portfolio, right?" Many songwriters had their own library of works. When they had inspiration, they would write a few lines or a few paragraphs, half a song or an entire song. When it was necessary, they would rearrange and perfect it. Lu Chen can be said to be unparalleled in the circle in music creation, but no matter how talented he is, it is impossible for him to say that he wants to write a song for you, and then he can create a complete and excellent work in more than 10 minutes. It was normal to draw inspiration from the portfolio or ready-made works. What kind of person was Tan Hong? He was a real big shot in the pop music industry. There was no doubt about his taste in music. Of course, he could distinguish the quality of a song. The problem was that the song Lu Chen took out was not something to coax children. That would be too much. Lu Chen explained, "I remember that Joanne just had her birthday. This song is my birthday gift to her." Birthday gift? Tan Hong was speechless. Didn't Fair already give it to her? She can't take it anymore, and this is also. Before he finished speaking, Tan Joanne's eyes were already red. She looked like she was about to cry. The song that she had gotten was going to be erased by her father. Chen Fair looked distressed and couldn't help but complain, "Brother Tan, do we still have to care so much?" Tan Ling also looked at her cousin in confusion. Lu Chen smiled and said to Tan Joanne, "Joanne, give me the guitar. I'll teach you how to sing now." The little girl immediately turned from sadness to joy and immediately gave her guitar to Lu Chen. Tan Hong's dissuasion was useless, so he said helplessly, "Oh, you guys just spoil her." Song Wanlu pursed her lips and smiled. When it came to spoiling his daughter, no one could be more spoiled than him. How could he talk about others? Lu Chen let the little girl sit next to him and held the guitar in his arms, gently strumming the strings. Tan Jiawan's guitar is a small children's guitar, and it's a folk style. Although Lu Chen hasn't used it before, he is absolutely top-notch in guitar playing, so he got it in 2 or 3 moves. On the road of life, sweet and bitter, happy and sad, I'm willing to share them all with you. It's hard to avoid falling and waiting, be brave and raise your head. Who wants to hide in a harbor sheltered from the wind, rather have the freedom of the turbulent waves? May the lighthouse in your heart keep watch, let you see through the fog. The song Lu Chen gave Tan Jiawan was called, "The Sunshine Always After the Storm." This song was certainly not a children's song. The lyrics were undoubtedly too mature for a 2 or 3-year-old child. But this song was not a love song, folk song, or rock song. It was inspirational and contained the strength of a firm belief as well as many beautiful things, but it had nothing to do with age. Lu Chen gave "The Sunshine Always After the Storm" to Tan Jiawan. In fact, it represented his encouragement and expectations for the little girl. Perhaps she could not truly understand the meaning of the lyrics now, but she would definitely understand in the future. Lu Chen wanted this song to accompany her as she grew up, so that she would not be afraid in the face of difficulties and setbacks in the future. The sunshine always after the storm, there is a clear sky above the dark clouds. Cherish all the touching, every hope is in your hands. The sunshine always after the storm, please believe there is a rainbow. Accept all the ups and downs, I will always be around you. In the private room, the sound of the guitar drifted along with Lu Chen's singing. Everyone listened attentively. Some were even moved. Tan Hong suddenly understood. At first, he resisted because he knew very well that such a song written by Lu Chen would be sold for millions of yuan, and many people would fight for it. It was too expensive as a gift. Since Lu Chen became famous, many singers and stars had invited him to sing, but very few of them really got what they wanted. And those who got his works would not be disappointed. There were even rumors in the circle that a singer who was not short of money was willing to pay 5 million yuan to buy Lu Chen's new work. Tan Hong could definitely afford a few million yuan, but Lu Chen would not want it at all, and it was impossible to talk about money. But now that he heard Lu Chen sing it himself, he understood that this song was not only for Tan Jiawan, but also for himself. He wrote his deepest love for his daughter. This was Lu Chen's repayment for his help and support for Lu Chen. Then what reason did he have to refuse? No. Note, the sunshine always after the storm, lyricist/composer, Chen Jiaming. Chapter 762. On December 22nd, it would be Christmas in 3 days, and the capital ushered in a heavy snow. According to the latest weather forecast, this was also the last snow of 2017. The snow was exceptionally heavy, and the snowflakes flying all over the sky covered the ancient capital with a layer of white coat, which was exceptionally enchanting. For Qinfei Media, a year of hard work has paid off at this season. First of all, You from the Star, produced by Qinfei Media in conjunction with Beijing Television, Zhidong Satellite TV and other units, was broadcast and achieved great success. Since its premiere in August, this sci-fi romantic romance drama has broken a series of ratings records in China and South Korea. The highest ratings in China exceeded 10%, and in South Korea, it broke through 50%, becoming a well-deserved phenomenal national drama. In the past 4 months, You from the Star has set off a wave of ratings and public opinion, and its influence has exceeded Autumn in My Heart and Full House of Romance. Especially on the internet, the number of fans of the drama is staggering. Apart from the two leading actors, Lu Chen and Qinfei, the popularity of the main supporting roles in the drama has been rising all the way, from obscurity to household names, and they have attracted fans that many artists can't get in their lifetime. Beijing Television, Zhidong Satellite TV and KGS TV are also beneficiaries of this craze. They made a lot of money by relying on the episodes and advertisements, which made their peers' eyes bleed. As early as when You was first broadcast, TV stations seeking the rights to rebroadcast came one after another, while Zhidong Satellite TV and Beijing Television did not want to give away this fat meat, so they re-signed a contract with Qinfei Media. In addition, the extended re-edit online version of You was bought by QQ Video for 150 million yuan, which also set a new record for TV series webcast copyright transaction. After statistics, this year's TV series You alone, including the advertising share of the 3 major TV stations, copyright sale and brand placement advertisements, can bring more than 500 million yuan to Qinfei Media. In addition, the novel version of You went on sale nationwide on the 19th, and set a sales volume of 500,000 copies in 3 days. The film copyright of You is under negotiation and is being fought over by many major film companies. Therefore, in the new year, You will also create a steady stream of income for Qinfei Media. Relying on this popular TV series, Qinfei Media had already stood at the top of the film and television media circle, and the limelight was unparalleled. Apart from Xingyo, Lu Chen and Qinfei had also had a good year. Both of them had earned more than 100 million yuan from their endorsements, and they had secured first and second place in the list of celebrity income in 2017. And the artists signed by Qinfei Media have also performed well. Nirvana has released their debut album, and Tang Xinyao has released her debut album, and they have made gains in different markets. In particular, Tang Xinyao became famous overnight with the help of Original Dream. The 3 songs in the album, which were tailored for her by Lu Chen, were all in the top 10 of the original music chart. Her domination of the chart was a foregone conclusion. It's also interesting to say that Lu Chen and Qinfei's albums swept the original music chart, forcing the original music chart to change its rules. The same album could only allow 3 songs to be on the chart at the same time. But even so, it couldn't stop Lu Chen's works from continuing to crush all his opponents. Therefore, such a situation can often be seen on the chart, that is, there is no Lu Chen in the top 10, and then clicking on the information of the songs on the chart, you can see the familiar name again. Fans call it the Lu Chen phenomenon, and there is no one who doesn't admire it. When it was snowing in Beijing, Tang Xinyao was promoting in Hangzhou, so she didn't catch up with the company's red envelopes. After the broadcast of You, it happened to be Christmas. In addition, everyone has really worked hard this year, so Lu Shi discussed with Lu Chen and decided to distribute a Christmas red envelope to all employees, and then send a Spring Festival red envelope during the new year. Not only did they send red envelopes, the company also decided to have a holiday from the 23rd. After New Year's Day they gave a total of 9 days of holiday, so that the employees who have been busy for a year could have a comfortable Christmas plus New Year holiday. It was snowing heavily and freezing outside, but the atmosphere in the conference room of Qin Fei Media's headquarters was hot and enthusiastic. More than 100 employees crowded the conference room, and everyone had a happy smile on their faces. On the long table in front of them, there were stacks of stuffed red envelopes, which reflected golden and red light under the illumination of the indoor lights. Both Lu Qin and Qin Fei came to the scene in person, and together with Lu Shi, they personally distributed these red envelopes to the hands of each employee. In addition to the generous red envelopes, there was also a live lottery event. A large box was placed in the corner of the conference room, which contained more than 100 special small golden eggs. Everyone lined up to touch the golden eggs, one for each person, and everyone got a prize. The prizes included shopping vouchers, mobile phones, tablets, laptops, SLR cameras, and so on, all piled up next to the box. Among them, the first prize was a double trip to Europe plus 50,000 travel bonus. As the golden eggs were opened one after another, there were cries of surprise one after another. Soon, some employees happily took photos of their bonuses and prizes and posted them on their blogs. Of course, photos of the boss and lady boss were indispensable. The official V of Qin Fei Media did not publicize the company's internal event, but it could not stop the employees from proudly exposing themselves, so it soon caused a wave of envious comments and ridicule on the Wave's blog. Someone else's company. The best boss and lady boss in China. What the heck, it's not even the new year yet and they're already giving out red envelopes. 9 days off? Oh my god, I'm so envious. I just want to ask, is your company still hiring? I'm proficient in the installation and uninstallation of Word, Excel, Access, PowerPoint, Outlook Express, and other software. I'm proficient in the spelling of VB, C++, FoxPro, SQL, Java, and other words. I'm familiar with the operating systems of Win 7, Windows Phone, Linux, Mac, Android, iOS, BlackBerry, and other operating systems. Previous post is too awesome, I've decided to jump ship now. This is so lucky, there are red envelopes during the holidays and there are so many prizes. Most importantly, I can see Qin Fei, every day. Let me die. I'm speechless. As a result, many people in the industry and many companies expressed great pressure. Needless to say, the impact of the demonstration was really great. On the same day, many people called Qin Fei Media to ask if Qin Fei Media was hiring new employees. On the second day of the company's holiday after the red envelopes were distributed, Lu Qin and Qin Fei flew to South Korea. The two would spend this Christmas in Seoul. Chapter 763. Seoul International Airport, Terminal Hall. Jean Xiaomei and her two classmates squeezed into the crowd and stared nervously at the number 2 international arrival lane. Around her were many reporters with cameras, as well as the TV station's interview crew. However, most of them were like her, fans who spontaneously came to the airport to pick up their idols after receiving the news. Jean Xiaomei's idol was Lu Qin, the male lead of Autumn in My Heart, Full House of Romance, and You from the Star. He was a superstar from China. She found out about Lu Qin flying to Seoul from FLO. She did not know which insider was so resourceful as to expose the news on FLO that Lu Qin and Qin Fei were coming to Korea to participate in the production of KBS TV station, as well as the flight information. FLO was Korea's largest online social media platform, and Lu Qin was the most popular Chinese star on FLO. He had won countless fans by relying on 3 urban romance dramas. As a female student at Seoul National University, Jean Xiaomei could be said to be Lu Qin's most loyal fan. Not only had she watched all of Lu Qin's films and TV series, but she also owned 2 commemorative editions of Lu Qin's albums. Among her classmates, there are also many people who are fascinated by Lu Qin, so today she easily contacted 2 good friends and came to Seoul International Airport to welcome their idol to South Korea. Tien, however, when they arrived at the airport, Jean Xiaomei realized that they were a little late. The good seats had already been taken by the reporters and other fans. Therefore, she could only stand on tiptoe at the back of the crowd and wait anxiously. All she wanted was to see Lu Qin with her own eyes. As for autographs and photos, she temporarily forgot about them. At that moment, after a 2-hour flight, the China Airlines CT-158 landed steadily at Seoul International Airport. After passing through customs, Lu Qin, Qin Fei, and their assistant had just come out of the passenger passage when they were surrounded by countless reporters and enthusiastic fans. Lu Qin Appa. The screams of the girls were deafening, accompanied by flashes of light. Although he had been through all kinds of situations, the scene in front of him still gave Lu Qin a fright. He didn't expect that he would be so popular in Korea. There were so many reporters and fans coming to the airport to welcome him. Although Chinfei Media attached great importance to the Korean market, and the Korean version of Star was broadcast at the same time as the domestic version, the company, which had just started, mainly focused on the domestic market. The Korean market basically depended on the cooperation with KGS and SPG. This time, Chinfei Media did not do any publicity for their trip to Korea at the invitation of KBS, nor did they inform KGS and SPG. It could be said that they were very low-key. The result was truly shocking. Fortunately, there were security personnel at the airport to maintain order, so even though the scene was a little scary, it did not cause any chaos. Lu Qin saw a support board with his Chinese or Korean name written on it in the crowd, as well as his posters. Interestingly, most of the fans who came to pick him up were girls, so most of them were his fans. However, seeing such a scene, Chinfei hesitated for a moment and wanted to let go of Lu Qin's hand. She knew that fans were very sensitive and fragile. Although everyone knew that the two were a couple, these Korean teenage fans might not be able to accept seeing their idols showing off their love in front of their eyes. Therefore, it was better not to stimulate him if possible, lest any accidents happen. However, Lu Qin held her hand tightly, and at the same time, smiled and waved at the enthusiastic fans. As it turned out, Chinfei was obviously thinking too much. With the brainwashing of the 3 TV series, Autumn in My Blood, Full House of Romance, and You from the Star, the two had long become the most perfect idol couple in the hearts of Korean fans. Although these girls liked Lu Qin to the extent that they were obsessed with him, they were not unable to accept the relationship between the two. As for the dog food, it had long been fed by the 3 TV series, especially You from the Star, which had just finished airing, and its influence in Korea was unprecedented. Lovers on screen, lovers in reality, Lu Qin and Chinfei were already an inseparable combination in the hearts of fans in China and Korea. The screams of the fans became even louder, and there was a commotion in the crowded crowd. The airport security personnel were busy as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Lu Qin Appa. Jin Xiaomei was very lucky to squeeze to the front. Looking at Lu Qin, who was only a few steps away, her heart was about to jump out of her chest. She desperately stretched out her hand and shouted in Chinese, "Can you give me an autograph?" Jin Xiaomei majored in Chinese at National University, and her Chinese was quite good. She immediately stood out from the crowd of fans around her. Lu Qin happened to pass by and heard her words, so he stopped. He took the autograph pen and CD case from Jin Xiaomei's outstretched arm and found that the latter was actually a limited edition collection of You Who Sat Next to Me released in China. He couldn't help but smile and asked, "Hello, what's your name?" Jin Xiaomei. Jin Xiaomei never dreamed that Lu Qin would really stop for her. Her face suddenly turned red and she stuttered in Chinese, "My name is..." Jin Xiaomei, Xiao as in delicate, Mei as in beautiful. Lu Qin smiled and said, "Your Chinese is really good. Where did you buy this record?" As he asked, he quickly wrote a blessing on the CD case. Jin Xiaomei swallowed and said, "I asked my classmate in China to help me order it." After Lu Qin signed his name, he returned the CD case and the autograph pen to the other party. "Thank you for your support." As soon as Jin Xiaomei took it, she was immediately pushed to the back by the people around her. In a panic, she didn't know who stepped on her foot, but she suddenly woke up and hurriedly continued to step back. If she didn't step back, it would be terrible if she was pushed to the ground. Xiaomei. As a result, before she could stand firm, 2 students who had just been separated by the crowd surrounded her and stared at the autograph CD in her hand. "You got Lu Qin Appa's autograph?" Jin Xiaomei nodded. Suddenly, she had a strong vigilance in her heart. She immediately held the CD case tightly in her arms and said, "This is mine. Don't have any bad ideas." If anyone wanted to snatch it from her, she would fall out with that person. On this side, Lu Qin signed for several fans. Seeing that the situation was getting out of control, he was escorted by several security personnel and hurriedly left the terminal with Chinfei and his assistant. Out of the hall, the group quickly boarded the car that had been waiting outside and left the reporters. Chapter 764. The people who came to the airport to welcome Lu Qin and Chinfei were not only the staff sent by KBS. Lu Qingxian and his girlfriend, Song Jiajin, also drove them to the hotel where they were staying. The hotel was also arranged by Lu Qingxian. It was the Shilla Hotel in the city center. The Shilla Hotel was the top hotel in South Korea. It was located in the central area of the capital city. It was a five-star hotel belonging to the Samsung Group. As a hotel brand representing South Korea, it had hosted leaders from all over the world, as well as celebrities and stars in politics, diplomacy, economy, culture, sports, and entertainment. Staying at the Shilla Hotel was undoubtedly a symbol of status. According to the plan, Lu Qin and Qin Fei would participate in the KBS program recording on December 29th. Today was the 24th and there were still 5 days left. They were actually on vacation. There were many Catholics and Christians in South Korea. As the first major festival of the two major religions, the capital, Seoul, was particularly lively at Christmas time. The government also listed Christmas as a legal holiday. In recent years, the South Korean government had vigorously developed tourism and included Christmas in the scope of publicity. On Christmas Day there were a series of promotional activities in shopping areas such as Myeongdong and Gangnam, which attracted a large number of tourists to sightsee and shop. After the broadcast of You from the Star, Qinfei Media gave all employees a holiday, so Lu Qin took advantage of this opportunity to take Qinfei to South Korea for a holiday shopping. Attending Song Jiajin's program was actually incidental. When they settled down at the hotel, Lu Qingxian warmly invited the two to dinner. Lu Qin declined and said, "Mr. Lu is too polite. Today is Christmas Eve, so you should spend it with your girlfriend. We'll eat another day. Anyway, there is still a lot of time." Lu Qingxian didn't force it. He smiled and said, "Well, let's get together another day. You two have a good time. Please call me if you need anything." Although he left with Song Jiajin, he left his car behind and arranged for a driver to make it convenient for the two of them to travel. "This Lu Qingxian is really good," Qin Fei praised. "If he develops in the entertainment industry he will definitely become a top star." Character determined fate. Lu Qingxian's personal qualities were very high. His appearance was handsome and generous. He was magnanimous but not meticulous. If he really mingled in the circle, it would be easy for him to get a large number of fans. However, he was born into a wealthy family, so it was impossible for him to be interested in this industry. Although the Korean entertainment industry was extremely developed, the status of celebrities was actually quite low. Therefore Qin Fei was just joking. Lu Qin hugged her and said, "Aren't you afraid that I'll be jealous if you praise him like that?" Qin Fei glanced at him coquettishly and giggled, "I like it when you're jealous." Ah. Before she could finish her sentence, Lu Qin picked her up by the waist and strode to the bathroom. After taking a fragrant bath, they returned to the big bed in the bedroom. Qin Fei leaned lazily in Lu Qin's arms, enjoying the aftertaste of passion. After a few minutes she suddenly sat up, completely ignoring her exposed body. Lu Qin was surprised. "What's wrong?" Qin Fei put on her underwear and said, "Of course we're going out. We're going shopping." Lu Qin was speechless. "Aren't you tired?" "I'm not tired." When it came to shopping, Qin Fei's enthusiasm was not much different from that of other women. Her answer was very simple. Of course, her reason was very strong. "I haven't had a good time shopping for half a year. I've made so much money. It would be a shame if I don't spend some." How could Lu Qin have any objections? So they called their assistant, called the driver to arrange a car, and went shopping in Myeongdong. Myeongdong was the most famous shopping area in Seoul. The most concentrated category of consumption was Korean local brands of cosmetics. The grade was mainly above the middle level. Skin Food, Misha, Olive Young, and so on had opened flagship stores here, attracting a large number of tourists. In particular, domestic tourist groups who came to Seoul had to come to Myeongdong. Therefore, slightly larger stores were equipped with shopping guides in Chinese, which was very convenient. In fact, compared to Myeongdong, the grade in Gangnam was higher, featuring international brands. Of course, Qin Fei was not short of money. She usually didn't use Korean brands of cosmetics, but she liked the shopping atmosphere in Myeongdong very much. Today was Christmas Eve and it happened to be Sunday, so Myeongdong was particularly lively. All the shops along the street had advertised discounts and tried their best to attract customers. Although they were in Korea, the two also disguised themselves, wearing sunglasses and masks to avoid attracting onlookers. Relying on the three popular TV series on KGS TV station, Lu Qin and Qin Fei can be said to be the most popular domestic stars in South Korea. The number of fans even overshadowed many of South Korea's local A-list artists. If the two didn't disguise themselves, they would probably be surrounded in a few steps. This time, Qin Fei was satisfied with her shopping addiction. She spent the entire afternoon and evening shopping. Anyway, it was just buying. If she saw something she liked, she would buy it. If she didn't use it herself, she would give it to others. Fortunately, Lu Qin had brought his 2 assistants along. In addition, there was a chauffeur and a car. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't even be able to carry the shopping bags. Even so, they almost broke their legs following Qin Fei. It wasn't until night time that the 2 returned to the hotel with shopping bags of all sizes. The next day, they went to watch the Christmas parade on the streets of Seoul. They didn't have enough fun until the 27th. On the morning of the 28th, Lu Qin and Qin Fei attended an international brand endorsement event together. On the morning of the 29th, the 2 accepted an interview with KBS TV. In the afternoon, they participated in the recording of KBS's new star show. After the recording, the 2 had dinner with Lu Qingxian and Song Jiajin. According to the original plan, the 2 would stay in Seoul for another day to meet with the higher-ups of KGS TV and SYG before returning to Beijing on the 31st. However, unexpectedly, on the night of the 29th, which was the day Lu Qin finished recording the new star show, Li Ziqing, a Korean Taekwondo master with a 9-dan black belt and 2 Olympic gold medals, sent him a challenge on his FLOO account, which had more than 10 million fans. Li Ziqing was a household name in Korea. After winning his first Olympic gold medal, he was regarded as a hero by many Koreans. He was extremely popular in Korea. Therefore, when his challenge was posted, it immediately caused a huge sensation. It quickly became the hottest topic on the internet and attracted the attention of the Korean media. Chapter 765. Taekwondo originated from the Korean peninsula. It evolved from Taekwondo and Warangdo during the Three Kingdoms period. It was a popular martial art in Korea. Before the last century, there was no Taekwondo in Korea. Korean martial arts were mainly karate, tang hand, and a small number of folk Taekwondo. During the Japanese occupation, a large number of young Korean students went to Japan to study and received systematic karate training from the Matsuro Dojo. After returning home, they began to establish dojos to teach students. After the defeat of Japan, Korea gained national independence, and a large number of karate and tang art dojos emerged. In the early days, Korean karate practitioners combined the traditional national martial arts of Taekwondo with karate, calling it tang art. The earliest Korean dojos appeared, and they were later known as the Nine Paths Dojos. The name Taekwondo was created in 1955 by General Choi Hongshi of Korea. He studied karate in Japan and played a vital role in the establishment, inheritance and development of Taekwondo. Li Ziqing was one of Choi Hongshi's proudest disciples. Li Ziqing began learning Taekwondo at the age of 5. He won the national championship at the age of 17. At the age of 21, he participated in the Olympic Games and won the gold medal in the 68 kilograms category. 4 years later, he successfully defended his title. His contribution to Taekwondo was not only the 2 Olympic gold medals, but also the creation of a new school outside of the Nine Paths Dojos. The dojos he established were not inferior to the Nine Paths Dojos in terms of strength and influence. They were even more famous among young Koreans. Li Ziqing not only inherited Taekwondo, but also had his own unique innovation. The school he created absorbed the essence of martial arts such as kickboxing, grappling, sanda, and so on. It was more inclined to actual combat. One day 5 years ago, when Li Ziqing came out of the dojo, he happened to encounter 3 robbers who were robbing passers-by with knives. He rushed forward with his bare hands and knocked down all the tall and strong robbers in just 10 seconds. The scene was captured by the cameras in the nearby shops and then uploaded to the internet, causing a great sensation. Later, the Korean president received Li Ziqing and awarded him a medal. Because of this, Li Ziqing was regarded as a hero by many Koreans. "It's my fault, Mr. Lu." In the business suite of the Shilla Hotel, Yu Qingxian apologized to Lu Qin. "I'm really sorry." Lu Qin said with a smile, "How can you be blamed for this? It's not a big deal." Last night, Li Ziqing had issued a challenge on FLOO. This morning, Lu Qingxian had brought Song Jiajin to the hotel to apologize in person. Without his insistence, Lu Qin would not have to face this problem. It was indeed troublesome. Although Li Ziqing's letter of challenge on FLOO was carefully worded, it couldn't hide the aggressiveness. Coupled with his special identity, it could be said to have forced Lu Qin into a corner to a large extent. This was not the first time Lu Qin had been challenged. After the UD-725 flight incident, as well as the video of Lu Qin demonstrating the motion capture system at Blue Sky Studio, Chinese Kung Fu became famous all over the world, and Jack Ross, who has won the AFS middleweight gold belt 3 times in a row, challenged him. It was just that Jack Ross's attitude at the time was not very serious, and Lu Qin directly expressed that he was not interested. Therefore, other than a small number of media making a fuss, the so-called challenge was left unresolved. In addition to Jack Ross, there were also many experts in kickboxing in Sanda and China who wanted to spar with Lu Qin. Some were purely hyping up, so Lu Qin could not be bothered to respond. But now, Li Ziqing's challenge was extraordinary. First of all, as the challenger, his identity was very special. He was a representative figure of Korean Taekwondo. His words carried a lot of weight and were not a joke. In this challenge letter, Li Ziqing proposed that Lu Qin could decide the time and location of the duel, whether it was in Korea or China. He wanted to use this duel to prove that the Neo-Taekwondo he created was superior to China Kung Fu. Now that the news had already spread and caused a sensation on the Korean internet, more media would definitely pay attention to it. It was believed that it would soon spread back to China. Under such circumstances, if Lu Qin rejected Li Ziqing's challenge, the consequences could be imagined. Not to mention anything else, there would definitely be many fans who would be disappointed, and there would definitely be people who would jump out to ridicule and say strange things. Some media would definitely take the opportunity to stir up trouble. At the moment, Lu Qin was really too popular. God knew how many people were jealous. Now that he was in Korea, it could be said that Li Ziqing had chosen an excellent time. Lu Qingxian happened to know some inside information. Actually, it's not that simple. Li Ziqing's purpose of challenging Lu Qin was not simple. After he established the martial arts dojo, he tried his best to promote the martial arts dojo style, with the intention of establishing a new Taekwondo alliance, and even challenging the ITF, which was established by his mentor, which was the International Taekwondo Alliance. However, the influence of the International Taekwondo Alliance was too great. There were more than 120 countries and regional associations around the world. It was not something that Li Ziqing could easily shake. Therefore, the purpose of his challenge to Lu Qin was clear. So that's how it is, Lu Qin nodded. He thought for a while and said, "Thank you, Mr. Lu, for the information. I will handle this matter well." Lu Qingxian smiled bitterly. Actually, I know Mr. Li Ziqing and I also admire his character. If possible, I hope that Mr. Lu Qin and Mr. Li Ziqing can become friends and not opponents. Lu Qin smiled faintly and did not say anything else. After sending Lu Qingxian and Song Jiajin off, Qin Fei asked worriedly, "What are you going to do?" She also realized the trouble that this incident had brought to Lu Qin. Lu Qin smiled. "Don't worry about it first. Let's finish our own matters first." Today he and Qin Fei still had to meet with the higher-ups of KGS TV station and SYG. That was the arranged work. Qin Fei asked again, "Then, are we going back to Beijing tomorrow?" The return flight was booked for tomorrow afternoon. Lu Qin thought for a while and said, "Let's talk about it at night." No matter what was going on outside, he would not panic. He would still do what he had to do. On the 30th, Lu Qin and Qin Fei visited the headquarters of KGS TV station and SYG according to their scheduled itinerary. They met and discussed with the higher-ups of both companies, mainly about the future business expansion of Qin Fei Media in Korea. Because both parties had a very good cooperation, KGS TV station and SYG received the two very warmly. The reception was also of the highest standard. They even had a banquet together at the Shilla Hotel in the evening. At the same time, the incident of Li Ziqing challenging Lu Qin further intensified, causing a huge reaction on the domestic internet. It could be said that it was a stone that caused 1,000 ripples. Chapter 766. The first to break the news was a small blogger on Waves, Han Wenhan. Han Wenhan had more than 200,000 fans. The main content of his blog included Korean travel, shopping, food, and study guides. At the same time, he also reposted a large number of interesting anecdotes from FLOO. In just 10 minutes after Li Ziqing issued a challenge to Lu Qin on FLOO, Han Wenhan reposted the news on Waves. However, Han Wenhan did not have many fans. Coupled with the large number of reposts he posted, it did not attract much attention from netizens at first. There were very few reposts and comments. Moreover, the comments were mainly puzzled and curious. Really? Who is Li Ziqing? I've never heard of him. He's deliberately trying to gain popularity, right? I don't think Lu Qin will pay attention to him. What a joke. Faced with doubts and inquiries, Han Wenhan quickly posted a screenshot of FLOO on his blog. At the same time, he introduced Li Ziqing's identity and background in detail. Although Li Ziqing was regarded as a hero by many Koreans, he was not very famous in China. Those who knew him were basically Taekwondo enthusiasts. After Han Wenhanshi's blog, many netizens realized that Li Ziqing's identity was not ordinary. Moreover, his challenge was serious and definitely not a joke. At this time, Li Ziqing's challenge had already spread on Korean online media. Some media reporters even called Li Ziqing himself and received confirmation from him. Han Wenhanshi knew that this was a hot topic that could not be missed. Moreover, he was the one who first discovered it. Therefore, he spared no effort in promoting it. He continuously reposted relevant news and news reports to his Waves blog. Soon, it attracted the attention of more and more netizens, especially Lu Chen's fans. On the morning of the 30th, the official account of Lu Chen's fan club reposted Han Wenhanshi's blog post. This time, tens of thousands of Lu Chen's fans went crazy. Challenge my chin? Has he gone crazy from wanting to be famous? Don't say that. Li Ziqing is pretty good. He won 2 Olympic gold medals. Tisk. Can he be better than my Chingu? He'll be looking for his teeth on the floor. Don't be too sure. I've learned Taekwondo. My coach admires Li Ziqing. I just searched. Li Ziqing is a practical fighter in Taekwondo. Do you think Lu Chen will accept the challenge? I don't think so. Of course, fans unconditionally support Lu Chen. Many people think that Li Ziqing is obviously trying to gain popularity and suggest that Lu Chen doesn't need to pay attention to him. But some people think that Lu Chen should accept the challenge because it's related to the honor of Chinese Kung Fu. The term Chinese Kung Fu was coined by Lu Chen, and it was also spread all over the world because of him. In the eyes of the Chinese people, Chinese Kung Fu was undoubtedly Chinese martial arts. Taekwondo can be said to be the national martial art of Korea. As the representative of Korean Taekwondo, Li Ziqing issued a formal challenge to Lu Chen. If Lu Chen did not accept the challenge, it would undoubtedly cause great harm to his reputation. After the UD-725 flight incident, in the eyes of many people, Lu Chen was no longer just a star in the entertainment industry, but an outstanding representative of Chinese. Such a high evaluation has even been officially recognized. It was precisely because of this that Li Ziqing's challenge was very different from Jack Ross. However, there were also many fans who thought that Lu Chen didn't need to rely on competing with Li Ziqing to prove himself. The two had different foundations and different professions. This kind of competition was unfair. Whether they should accept it or not, Lu Chen's fans debated endlessly on the internet, and then soon a number of online media got involved and quickly heated up the topic. QQ, Li Ziqing challenged Lu Chen. Who is the strongest martial artist? Waves, Li Ziqing, the 2-time Olympic gold medalist, challenged Lu Chen on FLOO last night. Baisua, Taekwondo vs Kung Fu, who won and who lost? EasyNet, Korea's Taekwondo #1 issued a challenge to Lu Chen. Lu Chen didn't respond for the time being. These bold and black titles not only appeared in the entertainment section, but were even hung on the homepage of the website. With these big sects adding fuel to the fire, more and more people joined the debate. There was always no shortage of people who wanted to see the world in chaos on the internet, and there were also many people with ulterior motives. Whether it was intentional or not, the view that Lu Chen should accept the challenge gradually prevailed. The reasons were naturally very righteous. Some said that Lu Chen couldn't lose the face of his countrymen. Some said that Lu Chen could easily crush Li Ziqing and didn't need to be afraid. Some said that if Lu Chen refused, then he didn't deserve his reputation. In short, anyone with a discerning eye could sense that there was a force stirring up trouble behind the scenes, stirring up the emotions of the netizens, holding Lu Chen up high, so that Lu Chen had no room to maneuver or retreat. Their goal was very simple. They wanted Lu Chen to fight Li Ziqing. If he won, it would be because Lu Chen had real ability. They had foresight. If Lu Chen lost, then there would be a good show to watch. The matter fermented very quickly. Although traditional media such as television and newspapers did not intervene, the public opinion formed on the internet could not be underestimated. Lu Shi called Lu Chen many times from Beijing. However, when Lu Chen really discussed this matter with his sister, it was only after he had finished the dinner with the senior executives of KGS and SYG and returned to his room. What do you plan to do? His sister was in a bad mood. Of course, she didn't blame Lu Chen for causing trouble. Instead, she was angry at some people for stirring up trouble and using this as an excuse to force Lu Chen to abdicate. Lu Chen already knew the repercussions of this matter in the country. He wasn't angry. Instead, he smiled and said, "If that's the case, then I'll do as they wish. I'll accept Li Ziqing's challenge." Lu Chen said it casually as if he had agreed to eat with someone or go shopping. Lu Shi was shocked when she heard this. You really plan to fight Li Ziqing? This is not a joke. His sister of course did not approve of Lu Chen's duel with Li Ziqing. As the saying went, fists and feet had no eyes in an arena fight. If he were to get hurt, regardless of whether he won or lost, he would suffer a great loss. Moreover, Lu Chen was a celebrity, not a professional player. Rejecting Li Ziqing was completely fair and square. As for what others said, let them say it. Lu Chen did not rely on their words to live. Don't be impulsive. Think carefully. Has Fei agreed? Lu Chen said, Sister, I'm not impulsive. I've thought it through very clearly. Fei has also agreed. Today's entire day was enough for Lu Chen to make a decision after careful consideration. That was to accept the challenge. Chapter 767. Accept the challenge. Although Lu Chen had countless reasons to reject Li Ziqing's challenge, as many fans said, he didn't need a fight to prove himself. However, he had his own ideas. After You from the Star was broadcasted, Lu Chen's urban trilogy has been completed, so in the foreseeable future he will not make any more dramas of the same type, and will fully turn to creating martial arts big IP. After You from the Star, it was time for the Smiling, the Proud Wanderer. The Smiling, Proud Wanderer would first shoot a blockbuster movie, and it would shoot 3 movies at once. After that, it would shoot a TV series. After that, The Legend of the Condor Heroes, The Return of the Condor Heroes, The Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber, etc. Lu Chen's ambition wasn't limited to making wuxia movies and TV series. He also wanted to promote his wuxia culture to the world through the development of games, comics, and other copyrights. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. His plan was huge. Filming The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer was the first and most important step. Therefore, he couldn't afford to fail. Lu Chen already had a plan for Qinfei Media to promote the movie. If he wanted to hype it up, then Li Ziqing's challenge was undoubtedly a great hype point. Li Ziqing challenged Lu Chen to promote his taekwondo. Conversely, Lu Chen could also use this duel to make Chinese kung fu popular and promote The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer. Li Ziqing wanted to use Lu Chen as a stepping stone. Lu Chen could also use him as a stepping stone. Of course, the premise was that Lu Chen won. Otherwise, it would become a joke. On this point, Lu Chen had absolute confidence. Ever since he experienced that strange dream, he persisted in practicing kung fu for the past 3 years. His body was getting stronger and his reflexes were constantly improving. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to defeat the armed former U.S. Marines on Flight UD-725. Therefore, as long as Li Ziqing was still human, he wasn't afraid of his opponent's challenge. Once he made a decision, Lu Chen's will was very firm. Although Lu Shi tried to persuade him, she could not overcome Lu Chen's persistence in the end. At 8:15 p.m. on the 30th, Lu Chen updated his blog post on his personal Waves blog, stating that he had accepted Li Ziqing's challenge. The time was to be determined, and the location was to be chosen at the Wuxia Dojo in Seoul. The Wuxia Dojo in Seoul was located in the prosperous Gangnam district. It was the core of the Wuxia School of Taekwondo. Lu Chen's choice to accept Li Ziqing's challenge in the Wuxia Dojo was no less significant than challenging the dojo. This also showed Lu Chen's strong confidence. In addition to posting the news on the Waves blog, the same content was also posted on FLOO. Since Lu Chen had been expanding into the Korean market for a long time, he had a verified account on FLOO and had more fans than Li Ziqing. Therefore, when this blog post was published, it immediately caused a sensation on the largest online communities in China and Korea. The domestic fans naturally applauded. My Chen is mighty. Defeat the Korean Lu Chen, I support you. Defeat Li Ziqing, my Chen will definitely win. Aha, I knew that Lu Chen would definitely accept the challenge. I was right. Don't say anything else. He's a real man. From now on, I've become a fan. Of course, there were also people who expressed concern. After all, Li Ziqing was a professional taekwondo master. How could he be easy to deal with? Due to the impact of the incident, Li Ziqing's name quickly became known by the netizens in China. Many videos about him circulated online and were seen by many people. Videos of Olympic competitions were nothing much. Even if it was a championship match, it would not leave a deep impact on people. This was because regular competitions had various rules that limited the performance of the players. It was like comparing professional boxing with Olympic boxing. The former was much more lethal. In terms of stamina and strength, professional boxing far exceeded the Olympic competition. After all, the purpose of the Olympic Games was to promote sports. In many aspects, it was inferior to professional boxing. Taekwondo, the Wuxia sect that Li Ziqing represented, was very focused on actual combat. It reduced the rules and restrictions to make the matches more exciting. His ambition was to promote the Wuxia sect to the world and establish a professional taekwondo competition that was comparable to boxing or kickboxing. There were many videos of him fighting with others on the internet. It was undoubtedly more thrilling than the Olympic competition and showed his strength. Therefore, after watching the videos, it would be too blind to say that Lu Qin would definitely win. Unlike the domestic fans or passers-by, the Korean netizens were obviously more inclined to their hero. I think Li Ziqing will win. I remember that he has never lost before. I like Lu Qin a lot. The few TV series he filmed are really good, but I also don't think he will win. Choosing to fight Li Ziqing at the Wuxia dojo? Haha, how confident. Or should I say arrogant? These comments were very tactful and polite. Many Korean netizens mocked Lu Qin for overestimating himself, saying that Chinese kung fu was nothing in front of taekwondo and so on. Some hot-blooded Li Ziqing fans who knew Chinese even went to China's Waves blog and mocked Lu Qin's blog post. Your idol is only worthy of our hero's guidance. This time it was like poking a hornet's nest. The number of Lu Qin's fans on Waves had already exceeded 100 million. Now that he had encountered such a hot topic, how could his fans tolerate a few Korean clowns jumping around in front of them? Therefore, under the leadership of Lu Qin's fan club, countless netizens crossed the Yalu River in high spirits and made their way to Korea's FLOO. They registered a large number of IDs and stirred up trouble in Li Ziqing's FLOO comments section. The participants in this battle were not only Lu Qin's fans, but also many online volunteers. Their most powerful weapon was a unique emoji pack. Mocking emoji, contemptuous emoji, indifferent emoji, funny emoji. Many of the emoji packs were made of Korean celebrities. It was like using a spear to attack a shield. They messed up Li Ziqing's FLOO as a counterattack to the Koreans' provocation. In fact, this was not the first time something like this had happened. In the past, netizens had gone overseas to debate, but the scale could not be compared to this time. Due to the influx of a large number of IDs, coupled with the fact that there were too many comments, it even caused FLOO to crash and could not return to normal for an hour or two. The Koreans who were caught off guard were stunned. They had never encountered such a situation before and did not know how to deal with it. The battle between Lu Qin and Li Ziqing had not been finalized, but the netizens of China and Korea had already started an unprecedented battle. Chapter 768. The online war between China and Korea did not last long. Due to the ferocity of the Chinese netizens' attacks, the number of participants was beyond imagination. FLOO's website was overwhelmed and had to block IPs from China. Many Korean netizens were unwilling to give up and went to the Waves blog to make a fuss. However, they could not do anything. On the 31st, Lu Qin received Li Ziqing's letter of challenge at the Shilla Hotel. The Taekwondo master had sent his disciple, Pu Yong-jun, to deliver the letter of challenge. Accompanying him was a reporter from Korea's MBC TV station. MBC was the second largest TV station in Korea, and Li Ziqing's intentions were clear. The letter of challenge was written in Chinese, and it was written with a brush. The calligraphy was quite good, and the strokes were vigorous and flamboyant, just like Li Ziqing himself. There was an unconcealable sharpness to it. In the letter of challenge, Li Ziqing said that he would wait for Lu Qin at the Wuxia dojo, and the time would be decided by Lu Qin. Under the two cameras, Lu Qin calmly read the letter of challenge, then said to Li Ziqing's disciple, Pu Yong-jun, "Then let's set it for the morning after tomorrow. I'll be there at 9 o'clock on the 2nd. On the 2nd? Pu Yong-jun was stunned. Li Ziqing's challenge was a very serious matter, and it had caused a lot of commotion. Such a challenge should be treated with great importance. No matter what, it should take a few days to prepare, right? Lu Qin's attitude was too calm, as if he was not preparing for an important duel, but simply having a meal. Pu Yong-jun's expression became a little strange as he thought about it. Lu Qin asked, "Mr. Park, is there a problem?" Pu Yong-jun came back to his senses and looked deeply at Lu Qin. He shook his head and said, "No problem, the time and place would be decided by Lu Qin." This was promised by Li Ziqing himself, so of course he could not make the decision on his own. However, he could not help but add, "Mr. Lu, do you really not need to prepare?" Pu Yong-jun's Chinese was pretty good, and his pronunciation was perfect. That was why Li Ziqing sent him to represent Lu Qin and deliver the letter of challenge. Lu Qin smiled and said, "I think one day of preparation time is enough." Pu Yong-jun couldn't help but feel angry in his heart. If it weren't for the TV reporters following him and the reputation of his mentor, he would definitely teach Lu Qin a lesson first. He had seen arrogant people, but he had never seen someone this arrogant. Pu Yongjun didn't think that Lu Chen was Li Ziqing's opponent. In his eyes, Lu Chen was a guy who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. He was destined to be stepped on by his master. All right. He clenched his teeth and said, "My master has another suggestion and he wants to ask for your opinion." Lu Chen said, "Go ahead." Pu Yongjun calmed down and said, "My master hopes that MBC TV station will broadcast this match live. MBC TV station is willing to pay 1.5 billion won as the winner's reward." He hoped to see a shocked look on Lu Chen's face. He believed that it would definitely be beyond Lu Chen's expectation. The key was not the 1.5 billion won reward but the live broadcast. If it was just a duel behind closed doors, the outcome would naturally not have a big impact. But a live broadcast was a completely different matter, and it would put a lot of pressure on both sides. Li Ziqing was a two-time Olympic gold medalist. A live broadcast was not pressure for him but motivation. It was the opposite for Lu Chen. Of course, Lu Chen could refuse, but it would mean that he would lose in momentum and confidence. A duel between masters was not only a competition of strength and speed, but also psychological quality. Li Ziqing's proposal to broadcast the duel was an open and above-board scheme. Lu Chen could only choose to agree or refuse. Regardless of whether he agreed or refused, it would be exactly what Li Ziqing wanted. The duel between the two sides had actually started when this Taekwondo master issued the challenge on FLO. Today, sending a letter of challenge was equivalent to directly making a move. Pu Yongjun was very clear about his master's intentions, so he was full of admiration. He looked at Lu Chen with a subtle hint of mockery in his eyes. However, Pu Yongjun was soon disappointed. This was because Lu Chen was not the least bit surprised or embarrassed after listening to him. On the contrary, it was as if he had expected it. Lu Chen smiled and said, "That's fine. But since you have invited MBC TV station to do a live broadcast, we also need to invite domestic TV stations to participate in the live broadcast. Of course, we will also pay the corresponding fees." He knew that Li Ziqing's proposal to broadcast the duel live was not only to put pressure on him, but also to expand his influence. What could be better than a live broadcast on a TV station? But how could Lu Chen not be willing? Since he wanted to play, he might as well play big. Pu Yongjun was taken aback again and immediately said, "That's fair and reasonable. I don't think there's a problem." The smile on Lu Chen's face grew wider. "That's good, but isn't 1.5 billion won too little? I think our domestic TV stations are willing to pay at least 30 million yuan for the live broadcast rights." 1.5 billion won was equivalent to less than 10 million yuan. As a live broadcast of a duel, it was a lot, but Lu Chen really didn't think much of it. Beijing Television or Zhidong Satellite TV were absolutely willing to pay 3 or 4 times the price to win the live broadcast rights. Because he was Lu Chen and he was worth this price. Lu Chen's teasing smile made Pu Yongjun's face burn, and even the faces of several people from MBC TV station next to him were embarrassed. Pu Yongjun actually knew the truth. MBC didn't pay 1.5 billion for this live broadcast at all. Most of it was paid by Li Ziqing himself in order to increase his influence. Anyway, he could win it back. As a result, he was ridiculed by Lu Chen. Yes, in Pu Yongjun's view, Lu Chen's words were naked ridicule. 30 million yuan, that's equivalent to 5 billion won. Pu Yongjun didn't doubt that Lu Chen was talking nonsense, because Chinese people were really rich now. Many South Korean stars and artists went to China to shoot films and TV shows, and the money they earned was more than 10 times or even dozens of times more than in China. With Lu Chen's popularity and influence in China, it was normal for rich big TV stations to be willing to pay for him. But where did Lu Chen get so much confidence? But at this time, Pu Yongjun couldn't back down. He braced himself and said, "Can you postpone the time of the competition for another 2 days? I think there are a lot of companies willing to sponsor." Lu Chen said with a smile, "Then let's change it to January 5th. Looking at his confident smile, Pu Yongjun suddenly felt that things had deviated from their predetermined track. Chapter 769. The year 2017 had already become history. On the first day of the new year, as per usual, Lu Chen updated his blog post on his Waves blog, thanking all his fans for their support and love for him in the past year, and wishing them all the best in the new year. As of 9 a.m. on January 1, 2018, Lu Chen's Waves blog had a total of 105720,254 fans. With an unparalleled attitude, he was the undisputed king of popularity in the country. In 2017, his career had made great progress, and his personal wealth had increased by more than 10 times. His relationship with Chen Fei-er was sweet and stable, and it could be said to be a double harvest in both love and career. As a celebrity artist, Lu Chen could be said to have reached the peak of his life. However, he was not satisfied with this. The glory of the past belonged to the past, and 2018 was just the beginning of his journey. With regards to Lu Chen's New Year's wishes, the fans naturally responded like a tide. Other than the same wishes, there were two main questions that everyone was most concerned about. First, of course, was Li Ziqing's challenge. The fans were eager to know when the duel between Lu Chen and Li Ziqing would be held, and if Lu Chen had the confidence to defeat this Korean Taekwondo master. In fact, the answer to the question of confidence did not need to be guessed. If Lu Chen did not have the confidence, why would he accept Li Ziqing's challenge? Everyone simply wanted to hear Lu Chen's most resolute answer, so that the fans would have more confidence. Of course, Lu Chen would not let his fans down, and he replied to everyone's questions immediately. This duel that had caused a sensation in both China and Korea, if everything went smoothly, would be held on January 5th. At that time, it would be broadcasted live by domestic television stations and online media so that everyone could watch. As for confidence, he was confident that he would win. The second thing that the fans were concerned about was whether Lu Chen and Chen Fei-er's relationship would bear fruit in 2018. The fans had good reason to be concerned. Just yesterday, December 31st, the famous actor Yang Han had announced that he had amicably broken up with his girlfriend of 7 years, Xiao Li. The news quickly made its way to the top of the search rankings. Yang Han and Xiao Li were classmates at Beijing Film Academy. The two of them had starred in many films and TV series together. They were lovers in the movies, but they were also lovers outside of it. Who knew how many times they had flaunted their love and displayed their affection on their blogs? Speaking of couples in the entertainment industry, if there was a ranking list, Lu Chen and Chen Fei-er would definitely be number one, while Yang Han and Xiao Li would at least be in the top 3. Who knew how many single people would be envious of them? However, this talented and beautiful couple suddenly announced their breakup without any warning. Soon after, someone exposed the inside story of the two's relationship problems, which inevitably made people sigh deeply. In the entertainment industry, it was all too common for men and women to break up and get back together. Some fell in love, some cheated. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that it was filthy. In such an industry, Lu Chen and Chen Fei-er's relationship was undoubtedly a clean stream. The fans definitely didn't want to see their favorite idol, the best couple in their hearts, have a problem. Therefore, they very much hoped that their relationship would bear fruit in the new year. In this regard, Lu Chen's answer was very simple: please wait and see. And when Lu Chen interacted with his fans on his blog, the domestic TV media and online media circle exploded. Li Ziqing's challenge to Lu Chen had caused a huge commotion. It was currently the hottest topic on the internet, with a huge number of people paying attention to it. It was the real focus of the news. Now that Lu Chen said that this highly anticipated match would be broadcasted live by domestic television and online media, the question was, which television station and online media would broadcast it live? There was no news at all. Such a big news and hot topic, the unit that got the live broadcast right must have shouted it all over the world and 100% would not hide it. Otherwise, how could it attract rich advertisers? It must be known that the time of the duel was January 5th, and there were only a few days left. So the only answer was that no television station or online platform had obtained the live broadcast right at present, and according to the past practice, such a live broadcast could only be given to one television station and one online platform. Quick hands get it, slow hands get nothing. The quickest to react was Beijing Television. Relying on the good cooperative relationship between the two sides and the geographical advantage, Beijing Television's deputy director Chen Qi took people directly to the headquarters of Chen Fei Media and bet on Lu Xi's door. Relying on the pull of You from the Star, Beijing Television's advertising income last year doubled. Deputy Director Chen, who strongly advocated for the premier broadcast right of You from the Star, could be said to be in limitless glory and was likely to enter CCTV to take up a new post this year. He had tasted a big sweetness, so how could he miss this opportunity and take the lead in fighting for the live broadcast right? Zhidong Satellite TV's reaction was a little slow, but the phone was quickly called Lu Xi's mobile phone. Not only the two major satellite TV stations in Beijing and Zhidong, Shonan TV was also interested in getting involved, and other satellite TV stations were also unwilling to be left out. They also sent people to the door or called to inquire. Compared with the major satellite TV stations competing for hegemony, there are relatively fewer competitors on online platforms, but all of them are also big shots. QQ Network, EasyNet Network, Whale TV. The key to the competition was undoubtedly QQ and Whale TV. Both of them had a good cooperative relationship with Luchin. The strength of QQ would definitely crush Whale TV, but Whale TV had signed an endorsement contract with Luchin and had an advantage. In addition to the media, many brands also came one after another, wanting to sponsor this competition. For a time, several of Luchin's mobile phones were blown up by people, and the phone in the office was ringing non-stop, making the customer service on duty miserable. They couldn't relax even on New Year's Day. Look at the trouble you've caused. It wasn't until noon that Luchin finally found the time to call Luchin and complained, "You had a good time in South Korea, but I didn't even have time to answer the phone. How can I solve it?" Luchin was visiting Jingfu Palace with Chen Fei. When he received a call from Luchin, he said with a smile, "Do as you see fit. Anyway, give priority to long-term partners. By the way, you have to tell the TV station that the winner will win all the live broadcast income of this competition." "If I win," he said, "except for necessary expenses, all the income will be donated to the Chen Fei Charity Fund." Luchin suddenly lost her temper. "I understand. No one dislikes having more money, but people are different. Some people earn more money than they can spend in several lifetimes, but they are still stingy with even a penny of charity." And Luchin was more willing to take out money to help those who needed help. He also gained the respect of others, the support of fans, and many things that couldn't be bought with money. Money was not the key, so Luchin's choice was very simple. After the two ended the call, the official V of Chen Fei Media quickly released relevant news, which once again caused a heated discussion on the Waves blog. Chapter 770. Seoul's Gangnam District, Wuxia Dojo. This building, which covered an area of 10 acres, was originally the residence of a high-ranking military officer stationed in Korea during the Japanese occupation of Korea. Therefore, the style was more Japanese, but it retained much of the essence of Korean houses. The white walls and black tiles were hidden in the shade of the trees, creating a unique scenery. The door of the dojo was open, and the four gilded Chinese characters, Wuxia Dojo, were hanging under the eaves of the corridor. They shone brightly under the sunlight, and the strokes were bold and vigorous. These 4 words were personally written by Li Zhiqing. He had obtained the ownership of this building 10 years ago and used it as a place where he passed down his teachings. It had also become the 10th dojo outside of the 9 major dojos and the core of the Wuxia sect. 10 men dressed in traditional taekwondo uniforms lined up on the left and right, greeting the visitor in the most solemn manner. They were all very young and had the vigor and arrogance of youth. As they bowed, they stared eagerly at Luchin, who had crossed the threshold, with sparks dancing in their eyes. Everyone knew that this man from China, who was about the same age as them, would challenge Li Zhiqing, their supreme mentor. These disciples of Li Zhiqing believed that Li Zhiqing would definitely win, so they hoped that they would be the ones to fight and defeat Luchin. Luchin ignored their gazes and calmly admired the exquisiteness of the Wuxia Dojo. Whether it was Japan or Korea, traditional architecture had inherited and absorbed the essence of China's ancient architecture. This building, which had a history of nearly 100 years, was no exception. The layout was grand but not exquisite, and the vicissitudes of time had a unique charm. Li Zhiqing was standing at the door, welcoming the arrival of Luchin. This Korean taekwondo master was 35 years old. He had started learning taekwondo at the age of 5 and was taught by Choi Hongxi. However, he was also Choi Hongxi's trader, and had a legendary life. "Mr. Luchin." Seeing Luchin, Li Zhiqing bowed and said, "Welcome to the Wuxia Dojo." His Mandarin was very standard, and his pronunciation was even better than the standard of many Chinese people. In fact, this taekwondo master was very respectful of the Chinese civilization. Not only could he speak fluent Mandarin, but he was also proficient in calligraphy. The surrounding Li Zhiqing's disciples couldn't help but reveal surprised expressions. Li Zhiqing rarely treated people with such respect, especially the younger generation. To have him take the initiative to shake their hands was already a great honor. Luchin bowed back and said, "Hello, Mr. Li Zhiqing. Please advise me." He straightened up and met Li Zhiqing's gaze. Unlike the other disciples, Li Zhiqing was wearing a traditional Korean robe today. He was tall and thin, had short hair, and had a resolute expression. His eyes were bright and full of expression. With one look, one could tell that he was the kind of person with a strong will. Li Zhiqing's arms were very long, and the joints on his hands were thick. His skin was rough and full of calluses. And the deepest impression that this Korean Taekwondo master left on Lu Chen at first sight was his aura. He didn't show any anger, but he was dignified like a mountain, as if no force could shake him. When Lu Chen was looking through information related to Li Ziqing 2 days ago, he saw a Taekwondo master's description of him in an article. It said that as an opponent standing in front of Li Ziqing, it was amazing to be able to remain calm. At that time, Lu Chen thought that it was exaggerated praise. Now that he had seen this master with his own eyes, he realized that the article was not fabricated. While Lu Chen was sizing up Li Ziqing was also sizing him up. In fact, in Korea, many people did not understand why Li Ziqing wanted to challenge Lu Chen. In their opinion, Li Ziqing was a Taekwondo master, while Lu Chen was just a celebrity. The two of them were not on the same level. In Korea, the status of a celebrity was very low. However, Li Ziqing had never been a person who stuck to the old rules. Otherwise, he would not have established a faction outside of the 9 major Taoist temples and challenged the influential International Taekwondo Union. The idea of challenging Lu Chen started when he saw the video of Lu Chen demonstrating the motion capture system at the Blue Number studio. At that time, he realized that this was an opportunity. In order to promote the Wuqing style, Li Ziqing could be said to have racked his brains. Most importantly, he felt that Lu Chen was fully qualified to be his opponent, defeated by him. Please? Today, apart from Chen Fei Lu Shi, who had just flown over yesterday, accompanied Lu Chen to the Wuqing Martial Arts Dojo. In the hall of the Wuqing Martial Arts Dojo, 7 cameras were already in place, all aimed at the ring. In addition to the reporters and cameramen of South Korea's MBC TV, there were also live broadcast personnel from Beijing Television in China. This competition, which caused a huge sensation in China and South Korea, would be broadcast live. South Korea's second-largest TV station, MBC, won the live broadcast rights of South Korea, while China's live broadcast rights were sold to Beijing Television and Zhidong Satellite TV. After a fierce competition, Beijing Television and Zhidong Satellite TV finally continued to join forces. The two gave 30 million yuan for this live broadcast, which was equivalent to 5 billion won as a bonus fee. The reason why it was called a bonus was that the money would be obtained by the winner of both sides. Correspondingly, South Korea provided the same amount of sponsorship money. Because MBC was under too much pressure, many South Korean companies jointly sponsored 3.5 billion won plus MBC, it was a total of 5 billion. Among them was the Samsung Consortium. This meant that the winner between Lu Chen and Li Ziqing would not only win honor, but also a total bonus of 10 billion won. In fact, this was the result of Lu Chen's leniency and did not add other sponsorship fees. For example, the copyright of domestic online live broadcast was won by QQ Video and Whale TV, and the price has steadily exceeded 5 billion won. If Lu Chen can win the final victory, he will win at least 100 million yuan in total income. In professional boxing or kickboxing competitions in the United States, an appearance fee of tens of millions of dollars was common, and an appearance fee of hundreds of millions of dollars was not uncommon. However, in the East, whether it was Taekwondo or other martial arts competitions, the prize money of tens of billions of Korean won was unique. Some South Korean netizens on FLOO called this competition the Battle of 10 Billion, and it quickly spread to China. In the hall of the Wuqing Martial Arts Dojo, everyone's eyes were focused on the two. There were not many spectators at the scene. In addition to the media reporters and the students of the Wuqing Martial Arts Dojo, there were mainly witnesses of the competition, including an official representative of the China Embassy in South Korea. At 9:37 a.m. on January 5, Lu Chen, who had changed into a martial arts suit, and Li Ziqing, who had changed into a Taekwondo suit, stood in the ring at the same time. And the live broadcast had already begun. Chapter 771. Whale TV, Lu Chen vs. Li Ziqing, Battle of 10 Billion Live Broadcast Room. The time difference between Seoul and Beijing is 1 hour, so when Seoul is 9 a.m., Beijing is 8 a.m. January 6th was Saturday and it was morning. Normally, there wouldn't be many online members on a live broadcast platform like Whale TV. This was because young people, whether they were office workers or students, would usually be sleeping in at this time of the day. But the live broadcast room of the Battle of 10 Billion live broadcast has been packed. Originally, Lu Chen's appointment with Li Ziqing was on January 5th, but because of the needs of the live broadcast, it was postponed by 1 day, which also gave the live broadcast media more time to prepare. On the same day that Chinfei Media released the news, the senior executives of Whale TV anxiously took the nearest flight to Beijing, and put on a posture to win the live broadcast right of the duel at any cost. Of course, Whale TV's urgency was reasonable. It was through the cooperation with Lu Qin, and through a record-breaking live broadcast, that this live broadcast platform gathered a lot of popularity and successfully jumped to the top of the industry. If they missed this live broadcast, it would inevitably make people doubt whether there was a problem with the cooperation between Whale TV and Lu Qin, and the members of the platform would definitely be disappointed, which would be a great loss for Whale TV. Unsurprisingly, Whale TV's plot encountered a strong competitor, QQ Video. Under such circumstances, the CEO of Whale TV went to Beijing in person, and after hard negotiations, finally reached a win-win agreement and jointly obtained the right to live broadcast with QQ Video. After signing the contract, Whale TV immediately launched large-scale publicity, and even temporarily purchased 2 high-performance servers to provide the fluency of the live video. It turned out that Whale TV's decision was very correct. At 7 o'clock in the morning, more than 2 million viewers had poured into the live broadcast room of the Battle of 10 Billion Live, and by 8 o'clock, the number had reached 5 million. If it weren't for QQ Video that diverted a lot of fans, the number of online viewers would have been much higher. Many viewers, including many fans of Lu Qin, set their alarm clocks, and then lay in the warm bed to log in and watch with their mobile phones to cheer for Lu Qin. Is it about to start? It should be starting soon. I Qin am already in the arena. Ah, Lu Qin looks so handsome in his training clothes. I Qin will win. That goes without saying. We don't need to guess the outcome. We just need to guess which round Lu Qin defeated Li Ziqing. I'm guessing it's within 10 rounds of the first round. Haha. In addition to the overflowing number of people in the live streaming room, Lu Qin's official Tieba had also gathered a large number of fans. In response to the Battle of 10 Billion, the official Tieba forum also launched a dedicated discussion section. While watching the live broadcast online or on TV, these fans were also discussing fervently in the forum. There was no lack of professionals among them, analyzing and commenting on Lu Qin and Li Ziqing from all aspects. Such professional posts often attracted a lot of discussion from fans. Compared with the one-sided optimism and support in the live streaming room, the professional analysis post was undoubtedly much calmer, because Li Ziqing's brilliant record could not be ignored, and he also had many videos, which showed the strength of this taekwondo master in all aspects. In contrast, Lu Qin's record was really much worse. He had not participated in any competition, nor had he had a formal confrontation with others. In terms of experience alone, he was far inferior to Li Ziqing. Of course, even Li Ziqing himself did not dare to underestimate Lu Qin. In an interview with the media the day before yesterday, he publicly stated that he had the confidence to win, but he was not sure of winning. Or some people said that this was Li Ziqing's modesty and caution, but Lu Qin's skill had already been shown in several sensational events, so the match was still full of suspense. What was surprising was that at around 7:30 in the morning, a large number of newly registered IDs suddenly flooded into Lu Qin's official Tieba, and they were desperately flooding the screen with posts. The IP addresses of these accounts were all from overseas and most of the names were messy, but there were also IDs with Korean characters mixed in. The content of the posts was similar. They were all supporting Li Ziqing, mocking and even belittling Lu Qin. Netizens who frequented Tieba were all experienced, and with one look, they understood that it was definitely the Korean netizens who rushed to cause trouble at the critical moment, or more accurately, they were looking for trouble. A few days ago, the Chinese netizens blew up FLOO, and there was a time when the server was paralyzed. In the end, the domestic IP address was blocked, and the news was reported on various major media. Now, it was normal for the Korean netizens to come and seek revenge. But the Chinese netizens were not afraid of this, and they were also on their own turf, so there was no need for the main Tieba moderator to call on them. They all picked up their bricks and smashed them, drowning all the posts in an instant. In fact, some of the posts from the Korean netizens were quite professional, and they listed various statistics to prove that Li Ziqing had an advantage over Lu Qin. Unfortunately, their efforts were in vain. After being scolded badly, someone with the ID Park Ensang KSO angrily posted on Tieba, "You Chinese people only know how to brag, but our Korean Taekwondo is invincible. Li Ziqing will make all of you shut your mouths." This ID was not newly registered, and it had been verified. Therefore, everyone quickly found out that this Park Ensang KSO was actually a rather famous Korean Taekwondo player. He had participated in the London Olympics and won a silver medal. Currently, he had retired and was engaged in promoting Taekwondo. But although he was famous, the netizens did not care about him and they still smashed him. But everyone was very clear that the outcome of the online debate was actually not important. The most important thing was the outcome of the actual duel. If Lu Qin won, he could naturally hang Park En-sang KSO up and whip his corpse. But what if Lu Qin lost? Then everyone's support for Lu Qin might become a joke, and they could only watch the Korean flaunt his prowess. How could they tolerate it? Big numbers of posts on Chieba decreased in an instant, and everyone turned their attention to the live broadcast. Looking at Lu Qin appearing on the stage, countless people were cheering for him in their hearts. Don't lose. At this moment, Lu Qin obviously could not hear the common voice of thousands of fans. He was being checked by the referee to make sure that he did not have any illegal items on him. At the same time, Lu Qin could also feel the gaze from his opponents. It contained the confidence and desire for victory. Chapter 772. Lu Qin vs. Li Ziqing. Li Ziqing was the founder of the Wuxia School of Taekwondo in Korea, while Lu Qin was the founder of China's Kung Fu. A duel between the two was undoubtedly unprecedented, with no precedent to follow. Therefore, the rules of this $10 billion battle were jointly determined by Lu Qin and Li Ziqing. Generally speaking, the rules of a kickboxing professional competition were the main framework, not rigidly adhering to any fixed routines and moves. In actual combat, both sides were allowed to freely perform according to the situation of the battle, flexibly displaying various three-dimensional techniques such as punches, kicks, elbows, knees, falls, and so on. The goal was to ultimately defeat the opponent. This duel used the common 3-round system, with each round lasting 5 minutes. The rules were based on the UFC's unrestricted fighting system in the United States. For example, they were not allowed to attack vital points such as the eyes, crotch, and so on. They were not allowed to bite or tear people apart and so on. The referees on and off the stage were also invited by the UFC to ensure the fairness of this duel. Of course, the rules were very fair with the same restrictions and constraints on both sides. However, as the founder of the Wuxia School of Taekwondo, Li Ziqing was very familiar with the rules of this set of kickboxing and had a wealth of experience. In contrast, Lu Qin was really too lacking, as he did not have the experience of a regular match. This was also an important reason why many people did not think that he could defeat Li Ziqing. Even if the strength of both sides were equal, Li Ziqing could rely on his wealth of experience and rely on points to defeat Lu Qin. On the surface, Lu Qin's biggest advantage was perhaps that he was much younger than Li Ziqing. There was no passionate speech from the live host, no cheers from the thousands of live audience, and no beautiful and sexy girls raising their cards to open the fight. With the crisp sound of a copper bell, the first round of the duel officially began. Li Ziqing's legs and feet were close together, and his arms were naturally hanging by his sides. He clenched his fists slightly, looked at the ground, and gave a standard bow to Lu Qin. Lu Qin clenched his fists and returned the bow. The two of them straightened their backs at the same time, and their gazes collided once more as if invisible sparks were flashing. All the spectators held their breaths as they stared fixedly at Lu Qin and Li Ziqing, for fear of missing the slightest detail. Li Ziqing's disciples even straightened their backs with solemn expressions. In the Whale TV live broadcast room of the Battle of 10 Billion, the originally dense barrage disappeared completely, and there was no one in the Lu Qin official Chieba. Although they were confident that Lu Qin would win, when the time for the competition really came, Lu Qin's fans still couldn't help but feel their hearts in their throats as they silently cheered for him. Hey! The next moment, Li Ziqing bellowed and stepped forward abruptly. Within a breath, he covered a distance of 5 meters and approached Lu Qin. He waved his arm as fast as lightning and slashed at Lu Qin's neck with his right palm like a saber. This Taekwondo master didn't move, but once he moved, his momentum was like thunder. The speed of his attack was so fast that it made people dumbfounded. The saber in his palm cut through the air with a breathtaking whistling sound, and the force was extremely tyrannical. Li Ziqing's greatest contribution to Taekwondo was that on the basis of traditional Taekwondo, he absorbed the essence of kickboxing, karate, sanzho, and other combat techniques, which greatly improved the actual combat ability of Taekwondo. Focusing on actual combat and using the most rapid speed and the most concise and powerful moves to knock down the opponent was the essence of Wuxia style. Therefore, when those non-Wuxia style Taekwondo players fought with Li Ziqing according to the rules of kickboxing, they would basically collapse at the first touch and would not be able to withstand a single blow. This kind of neo-Taekwondo, which focused on actual combat and sharp moves, was very much in line with the appetite of South Korean youth. Therefore, Wuxia style was unique in South Korea and developed rapidly, faintly surpassing the traditional 9 daos. However, Li Ziqing's ambition was not to dominate South Korea, but to promote Wuxing style to the world, establish a professional competition league, and achieve the influence of AFS or UFC. Lu Qin was precisely the stepping stone that Li Ziqing chose to realize his ambition. The first move that he used on Lu Qin was born out of traditional Taekwondo's virtual step hand blade, but it was very different from the standard virtual step hand blade. The attack and power were many times stronger. If this attack landed, it was possible to cut or even break Lu Qin's neck, and knocking him down would be a piece of cake. Exclamations of shock could be heard around the ring. However, Lu Qin's reaction was extremely fast. The moment Li Ziqing's hand blade slashed at him, he immediately raised his arm to block. Bam! Li Ziqing's palm slashed heavily on Lu Qin's left arm, forcing the latter's arm to press inward. When his attack missed, he instantly retracted his palm, twisted his waist and raised his leg. His left leg kicked at Lu Qin at lightning speed. Taekwondo was famous for its unpredictable, elegant, and unrestrained leg techniques. It was called the art of kicking by the world. It had many variations and was flexible. Front kick, horizontal kick, side kick, push kick, back kick, swing kick, backspin kick, double flying kick, wind kick, and other moves were not only powerful but also pleasing to the eye when performed. Li Ziqing's leg techniques were a big step forward from the traditional foundation. Not only was his leg fast and powerful, but it also had a great element of surprise. The combination of his previous palm blade was seamless. This palm and kick showed the strength of this new Taekwondo master to the fullest. His side kick was fast and fierce. Lu Qin did not dare to face it head-on. He immediately took a big step back to defend and barely avoided his opponent's attack. However, Li Ziqing did not give Lu Qin any chance to take a breather. His left leg that missed its target suddenly landed on the ground. Using his left foot as a support point, he suddenly exerted force and jumped into the air. At the same time, he twisted his body and kicked at Lu Qin's face. A beautiful whirlwind kick. His consecutive moves were too fast. Lu Qin could not dodge in time. He could only raise his arms and cross them in front of his body. Bam! Li Ziqing's foot heavily kicked the point where Lu Qin's arms crossed, making a muffled explosion. The power of his flying kick was so strong that even Lu Qin could not resist it. He took 3 big steps back and was completely at a disadvantage. Good. Below the ring, Li Ziqing's disciples cheered. They were all beaming with joy as if victory was right in front of them. The first round had just begun. Not only did Li Ziqing take the initiative, but he also suppressed Lu Qin. 3 consecutive moves made Lu Qin only have the ability to defend and not fight back. They were very clear that once Li Ziqing took the initiative, his attacks would only become fiercer and fiercer until he completely destroyed his opponent's defense and willpower. Therefore, in the Taekwondo circle, Li Ziqing had the nickname of Tiger of Korea. They believed that under Li Ziqing's attacks, Lu Qin would not be able to withstand more than a few rounds. He would definitely be defeated. Correspondingly, Lu Qin's fans who were watching the live broadcast in front of their phones, computers and televisions were all nervous and silent. Li Ziqing's strength was unexpected. Chapter 773. In a fight between masters, strength, speed, reflexes, skills and other physical strength were not the only things that mattered. Momentum was imposing aura. Once one struck out with one's imposing aura in a battle, it would definitely be able to sweep away all obstacles. Li Ziqing seized the initiative to make a move at the start of the battle, and he firmly grasped this momentum, completely suppressing Lu Qin into a disadvantageous position. Even the audience who did not know Taekwondo or kickboxing could easily see that Li Ziqing's momentum was like a rainbow at that moment, and he could turn his winning momentum into a real victory at any time. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had fought for more than 10 rounds. Li Ziqing had the initiative, and he displayed his leg technique to the fullest. Whoosh, whoosh. He strode forward and approached Lu Qin. Suddenly he lifted his right leg to attack Lu Qin's left ribs. At the same time he jumped with his left leg, turned right, and kicked Lu Qin's chest and abdomen with his left leg, forming an alternating attack with his left and right leg. Double flying kick. The disciples of the Wuxing dojo below the ring felt their blood boil. They could not help but cheer and many of them were extremely excited. Double flying kick was a classic attack move in Taekwondo, but it was not easy to use it properly. Besides, the weakness of double flying kick was very obvious. The movements were simple but there was a pattern to them. It was difficult to change the direction of the attack, and it was easy for the opponent to counter it. But when Li Ziqing used it, the moves were smooth like flowing water. The speed, strength, and timing of the attack were all on point. Lu Qin had no chance to counterattack. He could only stand in a horse stance and use his arms to block. He was forced to take another step back. And he had already retreated to the edge of the ring. There were no ropes on the edge of the ring and it was not very high. Moreover, the edge of the ring was sloping. Once someone was knocked out of the ring, it would be very easy for them to fall to the ground. Although they would not be injured, the scene would definitely be very ugly. Also, according to the preset rules, being knocked out of the ring would count according to the number of points. It could be said that under Li Ziqing's storm-like attacks, Lu Qin was in a very disadvantageous situation. But at that moment Lu Qin did not panic at all. After blocking Li Ziqing's double flying kick, he took the opportunity when Li Ziqing had just landed to suddenly punch Li Ziqing's face. This was Lu Qin's first counterattack since the start of the first round. Li Ziqing's attack speed could be considered to be extremely fast. He originally wanted to continuously use double flying kicks to kick Lu Qin out of the arena, but no matter how fast his kicking speed was, how could it be faster than a straight punch? The Taekwondo master decisively gave up on the attack and turned to the left side of Lu Qin with nimble steps. While avoiding Lu Qin's fist, he swung his arm again and fiercely chopped at Lu Qin's neck. Lu Qin raised his left hand in time to catch Li Ziqing's palm blade. His waist, abdomen, chest, and arms pushed forward at the same time, hitting Li Ziqing's body. Li Ziqing's body suddenly swayed, and he involuntarily took half a step back. A look of surprise flashed across his eyes as he continued to retreat, widening the distance between them. Li Ziqing was very clear about the strength of his palm blade. Not only did Lu Qin easily take it, but he also used the momentum to complete a beautiful counterattack. This move was really beyond his expectations. Through the head-on confrontation, he could feel that Lu Qin's strength was definitely not below his. This made Li Ziqing decisively give up the idea of a quick fight and become cautious. Correspondingly, his momentum was also greatly weakened, and he no longer had the upper hand. This was precisely the experience of this Taekwondo master. He was not impatient, not greedy for achievements, and did not care about temporary gains and losses. He was very free to switch between offense and defense, and he could withdraw and release his strength at will. Moreover, Li Ziqing had already calculated his move when he retreated. If Lu Qin wanted to take the opportunity to counterattack, then he would definitely give Lu Qin a big surprise. But after forcing Li Ziqing to retreat, Lu Qin did not take advantage of the victory to pursue. He only took 2 steps forward, retracted his palm, and formed a confrontation with Li Ziqing again. The sound of sighs and exhalations sounded around the ring. Of course, Li Ziqing's disciples felt very sorry. It was obvious that Li Ziqing was about to kick Lu Qin out of the ring, but he failed at the last moment. How could they not sigh? As for the people who supported Lu Qin, of course, it was a big relief. Of course, it also included the fans sitting in front of the TV, or watching the live broadcast with their mobile phones or computers. The Whale TV live broadcast room, which had been silent for a few minutes, instantly exploded. Damn, Li Ziqing is really powerful. I didn't expect it. No wonder he dared to issue a challenge to Lu Qin. He has some skills. I was worried to death just now. I was really worried that Lu Qin would be beaten out of the ring. Don't worry, I haven't fought back yet. I will definitely give the Koreans a good look later. Don't be careless. Although the fans firmly supported Lu Qin, Li Ziqing's fighting performance was also obvious to all, so people had to admit his strength. Not many people would lie with their eyes open. In less than 2 minutes, the two sides fought more than a dozen rounds. Basically, Li Ziqing was attacking and Lu Qin was defending. The former's advantage was very obvious and the fight was thrilling and wonderful. Especially when Li Ziqing used the double flying kick, many people's hearts were in their throats. When they saw that Lu Qin held on and repelled the opponent, they were all relieved. Some fans, especially female fans, didn't want to watch anymore. It was really too exciting. In Lu Qin's official post bar, a new post appeared. Park and Ching KSO posted again, I believe you have all seen that Teacher Ziqing's strength is beyond doubt. He hasn't played his full strength yet, otherwise the battle would have been over. So don't take chances and admit your failure. It's not shameful. This professional Taekwondo master obviously had great confidence in Li Ziqing, and the facts seemed to prove that some of his words were not wrong, but the arrogance in his words made the fans on the post bar extremely unhappy. In an instant, the number of replies reached as many as hundreds. In addition to refuting, most of them were scolding. Park and Ching KSO quickly opened another post. Vulgar words can only mean your failure. His Chinese was undoubtedly very good, and his choice of words was smooth and standard, expressing the meaning of mockery very well. This made many of Lu Chen's fans angry and helpless, because apart from cursing, it was really difficult for them to refute the other side with confidence. After all, in the ring, it was strength that spoke, not words. And just after Park and Chin KSO posted a new post, Lu Chen, who had been confronting Li Ziqing for a moment, launched a brazen attack on his opponent. Chapter 774. Since the beginning of the Battle of 10 Billion, Lu Chen had been on the defensive. However, Lu Chen's defense was not to passively take a beating, but to measure the Taekwondo master's strength, speed and combatability through the confrontation with Li Ziqing. Therefore, although the situation was ugly, he was actually able to defend with ease. It was only when he was about to be knocked out of the ring that Lu Chen decisively counterattacked. This made Li Ziqing, who was fighting smoothly before, suddenly sober up. He wisely returned to his original position instead of gambling and continued to attack. He adopted a more cautious posture to deal with Lu Chen. This also showed Li Ziqing's shrewdness and experience. Under such circumstances, Lu Chen's forbearance and probing no longer had any meaning. The offensive and defensive momentum of the two sides was reversed. He quickly approached Li Ziqing, raised his left arm horizontally in front of him, and clenched his right hand into a fist and punched his opponent's head like lightning. Simple, direct and fast. This was the first time that Lu Chen used the kung fu skills that he had honed over a long period of time in public. The iron fist broke through the air and made a soul-stirring sound, which made Li Ziqing's face change involuntarily. The fist speed was too fast. He had no time to parry, so he immediately dodged sideways and retracted his left leg, ready to sweep and kick back. However, just as Li Ziqing lifted his leg, Lu Chen's right leg suddenly swept over. Bang! The left and right legs of both sides slammed together, and the dull sound made everyone's eyelids twitch. Li Ziqing instantly retracted his leg, and the muscles in the corner of his eyes couldn't help but twitch. With a low shout, he waved his palm knife and fiercely chopped at Lu Chen, who was close at hand. His palm knife was blocked by Lu Chen's left arm, and Lu Chen's right fist almost at the same time found a gap and bombarded Li Ziqing's chest. Li Ziqing suddenly felt as if he was struck by lightning. He couldn't help but stagger back, and the horror in his heart was indescribable. Lu Chen's attack was not out of his expectations, because he had already seen through Lu Chen's patience, so he was fully prepared to let Lu Chen go all out to attack, and then look for an opportunity to counterattack while defending. But never had he imagined that Lu Chen's attacks would come so swiftly. Even more inconceivable was that Lu Chen seemed to be able to see through his every move and was always able to perfectly seal off his counterattack before giving him a heavy blow. Li Ziqing didn't believe that Lu Chen had the ability to see through his moves, nor did he believe that Lu Chen had completely seen through his moves. The only explanation was that Lu Chen's reaction was too fast, giving him the illusion that he had been seen through. At the same time, Lu Chen's combat ability had also exceeded his expectations. He did not suffer this punch unjustly. Seeing that Li Ziqing was repelled by Lu Chen's punch, all the Wuxia disciples stood up. They couldn't believe their eyes. Li Ziqing, who was the symbol of invincibility in their eyes, actually failed to successfully defend against Lu Chen's counterattack and lost unmistakably. Compared to these Li Ziqing disciples, Lu Chen's fans who were watching the live broadcast of the match finally broke out into collective cheers and applause for the first time since the start of the match. Beautiful, this punch is too beautiful. Aha, I said that Chin will win. Now who dares to say that there is any danger? Although I don't understand it very well, it looks really powerful. Lu Chen, come on, beat Li Ziqing. Wonderful. In the Whale TV live broadcast room, it was just like a festival. Countless fans were reveling and countless barrage and gifts were sent out. Aircraft carriers came out one after another as if they didn't cost anything. In the official Chieba, Lu Chen supporters were even more proud and elated. One after another, they posted the post of Park Un-sung KSO, asking them to admit defeat to the top and fiercely beat it. Park In-sung KSO quickly replied, "The match is not over yet." Lu Chen's fans were indeed happy a little too early. Li Ziqing only took a punch and lost points. He was not knocked out of the ring or fell to the ground. It was too optimistic to say that Lu Chen won now. But in the ring, Lu Chen really played his momentum with this wave of wonderful attacks. He quickly caught up with the retreating Li Ziqing, twisted his waist, and kicked the latter's waist and abdomen with a whip kick. A whip kick is equivalent to a horizontal kick or a spinning kick in Taekwondo. It pays particular attention to attacking the opponent by surprise. Speed is the essence. Lu Qin used a whip kick in pursuit, which was intended to oppress Li Ziqing. Li Ziqing's reaction was also very fast. In the case of not being stable, he accelerated back to avoid Lu Chen's whip kick. He immediately stopped and raised his leg to kick Lu Chen's abdomen. His counterattack was a little reluctant, but his pride and conceit did not allow him to retreat again and again. Especially in the case of a head-on confrontation with Lu Qin, the Taekwondo master showed his brave side in addition to his shrewdness. Lu Qin moved to avoid, but the momentum of the attack did not change. Block, dodge, parry, hit. In this arena, the duel between the two sides entered a white-hot state in the blink of an eye. The confrontation of fists and palms, the collision of legs and legs, the muffled sounds seemed to be pounding on the hearts of the audience. 4 minutes had passed since the first round's 5-minute time limit. The confrontation between Lu Qin and Li Ziqing was getting more and more intense. The powerful collision between the two sides made the audience shudder with fear. Qin Fei, and Lu Shi also stood up from their seats. They were extremely nervous. As for the audience watching the live broadcast, they focused all their attention on the screen. They widened their eyes for fear of missing any scene. The time of the match jumped to 4:25. At this time, Lu Qin and Li Ziqing had already attacked dozens of times, and the two sides were evenly matched. Li Ziqing was able to block Lu Chen's fist and took a step back. His forehead was covered in fine sweat, his face was flushed red, but his eyes flashed with a fierce and resolute light. The next moment he suddenly took half a step forward and instantly jumped high in the air. He twisted his body in the air and prepared to kick at Lu Qin. It was the flying backward kick. Li Ziqing's flying backward kick was also improved. It was also one of his famous unique skills. During practice, he once had an amazing performance of breaking a wooden stake with one kick. It was definitely a powerful move. But at the moment when Li Ziqing kicked, Lu Qin took half a step forward. He punched both of his fists at the same time, one above and one below, and hit his waist and side crotch at lightning speed. Bang! This was a good point to fight with Lu Qin. His punches were even more decisive and fierce. His hard fists were like leather and he hit with full force. Li Ziqing, who was in the air, could not dodge at all. His whole body spun and flew out and he fell heavily under the ring 4 or 5 meters away. Everyone was dumbfounded. The Wuxia dojo was silent. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.